Chapter 1562 An Obvious Extortion. 1. Jiang Yu nodded slightly. Yu Qiong glanced at Yi Qingtang, but did not say anything. Anyway, he was staying here for free, and Jiang Yu usually just ignored him. What else do you want to say? Jiang Yu noticed that Yi Qingtang seemed to have something else on her mind. I have something that I want to ask you, Domain Monarch Founder, Yi Qingtang said obediently. What is that? Jiang Yu said. I heard from the other disciples in the Taiyuan Valley that we can get honor points from contributions to the Jiang family? Yi Qingtang said slowly. That's right. Jiang Yu nodded. The honor point system was a rule he set with the inner sect elders when he first became the domain monarch. It was used to motivate the young generation to work harder and always prioritize the family. What is considered as a contribution to the Jiang family? Yi Qingtang asked curiously. Anything that honors our family. For example, saving our family people, joining battles. You don't need to rush all these since you just entered here. When your ability improves and you make contributions, there will be honor points awarded, Jiang Yu said righteously. A smile flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes, but she still appeared to be very curious on her face. Save someone in the family? Jiang Yu nodded. Yi Qingtang smiled. Then I can get the honor points now? Jiang Yu was slightly stunned, but Yu Qiong laughed secretly at the side. Now, Jiang Yu was confused. What did she do for her to get the honor points when she just entered the Taiyuan Valley? Who did you save? You. Yi Qingtang showed an innocent expression. Jiang Yu's expression darkened instantly. How could he forget about this? I happened to save you in the land of infinite demons, Domain Monarch Founder. I didn't expect that I could still get some honor points. Please prove that for me. Yi Qingtang smiled and said. Jiang Yu's expression darkened further when he heard that Yi Qingtang wanted to use this incident to exchange for honor points. Furthermore, he still needed to publicly vouch that she saved him. Yi Qingtang was the only one in the Jiang family who knew about how he was trapped in the land of infinite demons. No one else knew that his abilities were gone. He did not want others to know that the majestic domain monarch founder in the past had become a child with no power. How would he dare to meet others in the future if everyone knew about that? Jiang Yu's serious and righteous expression was gone, and now he looked even grimmer. No, he refused directly. Why is that so? Yi Qingtang was confused. It appeared that she did not know Jiang Yu's concern here. Jiang Yu wanted to vomit blood, but he could not ruin his prestige in front of one of his descendants. He said with a steady and deep voice. Things that happened at the land of infinite demons were of a big scale and related to the god. It will cause more trouble if others know about that. Furthermore, you have seen so many powerful figures in the appearance of a child. The influence will be bad for you, as they do not want their prestige to be destroyed here. I'm not afraid of that. I just want the honor points to level up. This is also a way to appreciate the effort you spent to bring me into the Elder Cabinet. I believe that the powerful figures must be very generous in order for them to reach that stage. Yi Qingtang pretended to not understand the meaning behind Jiang Yu's words, and instead praised him. Chapter 1563 An Obvious Extortion. 2. You're not scared. But I'm scared. Jiang Yu almost explained to Yi Qingtang that he cared about his prestige. However, after seeing how Yi Qingtang wanted to level up in order to bring honor to the family, the words choked in his throat. To be honest, it was undeniable that Yi Qingtang saved him. If not, he might still be trapped and waiting for death to come with the rest of the children in that forbidden place. However, if Yi Qingtang used this incident to gain honor points, he had to personally vouch for her. It was his decision to bring Yi Qingtang into the Elder Cabinet. He needed to be fair when rewarding Yi Qingtang with honor points. He had to tell the rest of the elders to prove that he was not siding with Yi Qingtang. However, this meant that Jiang Yu had to tell others that he was trapped in the forbidden place. He would never tell others about that. Jiang Yu coughed and said, Though you have nothing to be bothered with, I need to be considerate for you. Since you are determined to level up, I will definitely support your decision. Okay. Jiang Yu thought for a while and continued. Don't mention saving me. Just say that you found a treasure in the forbidden place of the land of infinite demons. You handed that treasure over to me. which is equal to handing it over to the Jiang family. You can get honor points from that as well. Jiang Yu felt that it would be shameless if he did not give Yi Qingtang the honor points. However, his prestige would be ruined if he did so publicly to reward her for saving him. He then made up a perfect excuse. Yi Qingtang knew about Jiang Ye's concern. She would not even mention this matter if she did not wish to improve significantly in half a year's time. She totally agreed with Jiang Ye's excuse. I really appreciate your concern for me, Domain Monarch founder. I will work harder to cultivate after I get the honor points. I will not disappoint you. Yi Qingtang understood when the right time to compromise was. Jiang Yu sighed in relief. He waved his hand to signal Yi Qingtang to wait outside and called over the few elders of the inner sect. He needed to confirm the honor points for Yi Qingtang and also to check Yi Qingtang's potential. Yi Qingtang left the room, but Yu Qiong showed a cunning expression. Jiang Yu felt that he could slap him anytime now. Your descendant is really clever. Yu Qiong smiled and said. Jiang Yu frowned slightly, but did not bother to reply to him. Soon, the two inner sect elders arrived. One of them was Elder Qian, who came back with Yi Qingtang the other day. Jiang Yu told them about how Yi Qingtang found a treasure in the land of infinite demons, and how she handed it over to him. The two elders believed everything he said, and both agreed to give Yi Qingtang honor points as a reward. Jiang Yu understood that it was a big deal that Yi Qingtang saved him. She deserved a huge amount of honor points. Even though he made up an excuse, he did not want Yi Qingtang to lose out. He described how rare and significant the treasure was and decided to award Yi Qingtang with 10,000 honor points. I heard about Yi Qingtang from Elder Qian. She has the variant heavenly demon bloodline. However, she missed the right time of cultivation as she was wandering outside with another family. Since she's back now, we can observe her potential. If she's very talented, there's still a chance to catch up even though she wasted more than 10 years. Elder Kuan nodded in agreement after hearing that Jiang Yu wanted to check Yi Qingtang's potential. Chapter 1564 Potential 1 Elder Qian agreed. The little monster was brought to the Taiyuan Valley when he was 7 or 8 years old. Foundation time was wasted. However, he showed incredible talent after just spending 4 to 5 years' time here. No one in the entire Taiyuan Valley has better potential than him. If he had come back earlier, even Jiang Yinyan would not be able to fight him. If Yi Qingtang has the same amount of potential, it will be the best. With the mutant heavenly demon bloodline inside her, she will improve significantly within a short period of time. Jiang Yu had high expectations of Yi Qingtang. The mutant heavenly demon bloodline in her brought enough hope to the Jiang family. If she had not been outside for 10 years, she would already be very powerful under the family's nurturing. The three of them reached a compromise and called Yi Qingtang over. Yi Qingtang saw the two inner sect elders here and could roughly figure out what was going on. But she did not express it out loud. A special Dharma artifact was used to test one's talent. Jiang Yu and the rest led Yi Qingtang to the martial hall. Every newborn in the Jiang family would be brought to the martial halls in Jiang family to test their talent. The extremely talented ones would be brought away by the elder cabinet. It was entirely empty in the martial hall. There was a huge round platform at the center. The pure and transparent pearl floating on top of the platform could test anyone's potential. Elder Qian looked at Yi Qingtang and said, "Go up there." Yi Qingtang stepped onto the round platform. After Yi Qingtang stood straight, Elder Qian lifted his hand, and a string of spirit energy flew into the pearl. After the spirit energy entered the pearl, a ball of fog suddenly arose from the pearl. The fog spread out slowly, and light rays flew downwards and surrounded Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang could feel that she was surrounded by something warm. Under the platform, Jiang Yu and the two inner sect elders all stared at the light rays around Yi Qingtang, waiting for the test result. Though Yi Qingtang had not been in the family for more than 10 years, she had the mutant heavenly demon bloodline that the Jiang family valued the most at. As long as Yi Qingtang was talented enough, there would be another incredible genius soon. Back then, the person with the mutant heavenly demon bloodline was unbelievably powerful. The three of them were very clear about that. Another person with the variant heavenly demon bloodline now appeared in the Jiang family. How could they not be excited? The white light rays around Yi Qingtang sparkled were shining bright colors. As the color changed, the two inner sect elders were more cautious now. After a short while, the light rays around Yi Qingtang showed a pale red color. The color was really light. The expectation in Jiang Ye's eyes changed into strong disappointment. The red light represented one's talent level. The deeper the red color, the more talented the person was. The most powerful descendant in the Taiyuan Valley now, Jiang Yinyan, had blood-red light rays for the test. The light rays were pure red to purple when testing the little monster. Chapter 1565 Potential 2 Jiang Yu was not expecting Yi Qingtang's potential to be as high as the two of them. However, he sighed in disappointment when he saw the light red rays. Yi Qingtang's potential was considered outstanding in other normal families. It was not too bad in the Jiang family. However, when it came to the inner sect with countless geniuses, her talent was too mediocre, or even could be considered as very bad. If Yi Qingtang did not have the mutant heavenly demon bloodline, based on her talent, she could not even enter the elder cabinet. Though Jiang Yu was mentally prepared for it, he still could not help but sigh. Such a pity. Besides Jiang Yu, the other two inner sect elders also showed disappointment after seeing Yi Qingtang's test results. If she had better potential, she might still be able to catch up even after wasting more than 10 years outside. However, based on her potential now, she was not considered as hopeless, but she was definitely incomparable with the rest of the disciples in the Taiyuan Valley. Furthermore, Yi Qingtang had not been with the Jiang family for more than 10 years. She missed the best period of time for cultivation. The elders really felt that it was hopeless. It was incredibly rare for the family to have a person with the mutant heavenly demon bloodline. However, they did not expect it would turn out like such. Yi Qingtang did not know what the red light represented. She could guess the results from the looks of disappointment on Jiang Ye's and the elders' faces. She turned back and looked at the light red color surrounding her, but she was surprisingly calm. Her spirit root was taken away by Yi Yu, and the heart of the heavenly Tao in her was being suppressed by the divine phoenix. Yi Qingtang herself also could not tell what her potential was. How could her real potential be evaluated when she was chained up? Come and look for me later. Jiang Yu glanced at Yi Qingtang and showed a complex expression. Elder Qian and the other elder left with Jiang Yu. All of them were disappointed, as one mutant heavenly demon bloodline was wasted. They really felt pity for her. However, her bloodline was there. Though she could not rely on her potential to reach a supreme level, she might have some achievements if she worked hard enough. It would be difficult for her to reach the highest stage. Yi Qingtang stared at the back view of the three people as they walked out. She was in deep thoughts as she stood on top of the round platform. The spirit energy from the pearl still remained, and so did the light rays around her. Therefore, she could not step down. After a short while, the light rays faded gradually. As Yi Qingtang lowered her head to contemplate, she did not notice the light rays changing suddenly as they converged back into the pearl. The light red color in the light suddenly seemed to be soaked by a deep red color. It was as red as fire. However, it only appeared for a second before the light returned back into the pearl. The change was not even noticed by Yi Qingtang herself, not mentioning Jiang Yu and the rest who left early. Yi Qingtang walked down the platform after the light rays disappeared. No matter what the test result was, nothing could affect her determination. She was under the death sentence in her previous life, but she cultivated until the holy venerate stage from pure determination. She was not that weak anymore in this life, and her cultivation speed was much faster than last time. She still believed in herself no matter what others said to discourage her. She believed that her life was in her own hands, and never determined by fate. She would never give up any opportunity. Yi Qingtang had a plan in her heart, as she stared at the 10,000 honor points in her hand. She would definitely join the martial arts championship held half a year from now. Yi Qingtang walked out of the martial hall, and looked for Jiang Yu per his instructions. Chapter 1566 Skills 1 Yi Qingtang arrived at Jiang Ye's study room. Jiang Yu was frowning. Jiang Yu looked at Yi Qingtang in a complicated way. One of the reasons why he gave Yi Qingtang honor points was due to the mutant heavenly demon bloodline in her. She came to the Taiyuan Valley really late. The honor points served as a capital for her to build her foundation. It was good news to the Jiang family that Yi Qingtang had the mutant heavenly demon bloodline. He did not want to miss it. However, he felt pity for her as he thought about the talent test results. You were outside for many years, and since you're back to the Jiang family now, you need to learn from the basics. Jiang Yu pulled back from his thoughts and said, there are many skills in the Jiang family, but all of them are derived from the same basics. No matter how to cultivate our heavenly demon bloodline, we still need some foundations. Today, I'm going to teach you a few sets of skills. Jiang Yu stared at Yi Qingtang seriously. No matter how talented Yi Qingtang was, she still belonged to the Jiang family. Even if she could not reach the peak, she still deserved to learn the skills. Yes, Yi Qingtang was also very serious. She had acquired the mutant heavenly demon bloodline for quite some time, but she still did not know how to control it. Jiang Yu was satisfied with Yi Qingtang's serious expression. There are many skills in the world. The Jiang family uses 4 skills as the foundation: finger technique, movement technique, swordplay technique, and palm technique. Only when you master these 4 sets of techniques will you be able to actually utilize your bloodline. Come over. Jiang Yu nodded his head at Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang took a step forward. Jiang Yu folded his hands at his back and took a glimpse at Yi Qingtang. He then stretched out one hand and pointed out one finger. The Jiang family's finger techniques are separated into 2 classes. The first one is for normal family members, and the second one is for those whose bloodlines are awakened. Today I'm going to teach you the second type. Watch closely. Yi Qingtang nodded. Jiang Ye's face was expressionless. He just stared at Yi Qingtang calmly. He took a step forward and slowly pointed towards Yi Qingtang's glabella with his finger. The speed of this movement was extremely slow. Yi Qingtang focused on his finger and could see clearly how Jiang Ye's fingertips slowly approached her glabella. Time seemed to slow down at that moment. Yi Qingtang could only see the finger, which was about 1 meter away from her, gradually approaching. She could suddenly feel a strong and intense force surrounding her body as the finger got closer to her. It seemed that there were force waves spreading out from the finger. The movement was so slow, but Yi Qingtang felt that her body was tensed under that force. It was getting extremely difficult to even move her own finger. Jiang Ye's finger was an arm's distance away from Yi Qingtang's glabella, but she could feel the pain at her glabella clearly. Her whole body was soaked in cold sweat. It seemed that there was an invisible fiend cage in front of her about to swallow her. Jiang Yu suddenly withdrew his hand. The force surrounding Yi Qingtang disappeared. However, Yi Qingtang could still feel the pressure and pain. Chapter 1567 Skills 2 Jiang Ye's ability was almost all gone now. His finger movement just now was a pure technique without any power. However, Yi Qingtang could feel the pressure from the finger. How is it? Jiang Yu looked at Yi Qingtang's pale face and asked. Domain Monarch Founder, your finger technique is indeed strong. Yi Qingtang replied sincerely. She did not suspect at all that if his finger touched her glabella, her head would explode under the pressure. All the skills of the Jiang family consist of 3 levels. After you get used to it, you can attain initial success, and then phenomenal success. The last is perfected success. If you want to master more than one skill, you need a long time to train and practice. A skill that appeared to be mediocre was actually more difficult to master. If one could master such a skill, there would definitely be incredible effects. Jiang Yu told Yi Qingtang the foundations of the finger technique one by one. Yi Qingtang listened carefully and remembered them all. There were countless skills in the world, but they were all derived from palm, finger or leg techniques. The 4 sets of techniques that Jiang Yu mentioned were extremely important. Now I'll teach you the movement technique. Jiang Yu looked at Yi Qingtang and said. After witnessing how powerful Jiang Ye's finger technique was, Yi Qingtang paid 120% attention. Jiang Ye's finger technique must already be in the realm of perfected success. Though he lost all his cultivation, the power of the skill was still strong. Jiang Yu nodded as he saw the serious sight from Yi Qingtang. Jiang Yu folded his hands by his back again. His tiny body remained stationary. Just as Yi Qingtang began wondering what was so special about Jiang family's movement technique, Jiang Yu suddenly took a step. This step was very slow. He lifted up his foot slowly and put down at an even slower speed. The moment he lifted up his foot, he was surrounded by an intense and powerful aura. And the moment his foot landed, a gust of wind spread out from his foot. A virtual golden dragon suddenly surrounded Jiang Yu. Yi Qingtang could feel the breath of the dragon dashing towards her face. Her hair and sleeves were swinging in the wind. This is known as the dragon steps. Jiang Yu only took one step and withdrew all the aura. The golden dragon dispersed, but the air in the surroundings was still filled with pressure. Based on Jiang Yu's dragon step standards, the house might collapse if he took a few more steps. Given that he did not use any spirit energy, Yi Qingtang watched carefully and was shocked. The step looked normal, but it seemed that it could crush the world. She could not even imagine the power of the dragon step if Jiang Yu used it at his prime. Yi Qingtang watched and learned carefully. Jiang Yu was satisfied. No matter how talented she was, there was still hope to improve if she was willing to learn. After that, Jiang Yu showcased the swordplay and palm techniques one by one and corrected Yi Qingtang patiently. Yi Qingtang remembered Jiang Yu's every word and did not dare slack off. The foundation skills looked easy, but it would take a long time to master. Any mistake along the way would ruin everything. There was no easy way out. As Jiang Yu was teaching Yi Qingtang the 4 sets of skills, a special guest appeared at the Taiyuan Valley. Chapter 1568. Oh my! One Elder Qian and Elder Kuan left the martial hall and headed straight to the public square to check if their disciples were working hard on their cultivation. Many Jiang family youths in the public square were drenched with sweat as they cultivated diligently. The remaining elders were supervising their cultivation and nodded to greet Elder Qian and Elder Kuan. However, at this instant, a gust of wind rushed into the entrance of Taiyuan Valley. Everyone looked in that direction immediately and saw a lady in red whizzing in like a ball of fire. The elders' expressions darkened immediately. That lady landed on the ground slowly. She was an extremely gorgeous lady whose face had a combination of wildness, allure, and arrogance. Her red clothes swayed in the wind like a blazing flame and hugged her graceful figure. "How do I address you, miss? What are you here at the Taiyuan Valley for?" Elder Qian stood forward and asked the gorgeous lady. The lady squinted her eyes slightly. Her slightly lifted chin exuded a hint of arrogance while her furrowed brows seemed to be laced with impatience and anxiety. Her eyes scanned past everyone in the square before she subsequently asked, "Does this place belong to the domain monarch Jiang family?" The lattice voice was filled with impatience. "Yes," Elder Qian said. "That's right then." The lady nodded and said with arched brows, "Where is the wife of your domain monarch founder?" Everyone was stunned by what she said, as they did not know where this lady came from or what she wanted. However, Elder Qian's face darkened after he heard her. "Miss, our domain monarch founder's wife has already passed 10,000 years ago. What exactly is this lady here for?" The lady was not at all surprised by the reply and merely raised her brows slightly. "Did your domain monarch founder remarry afterward then?" The lattice impolite tone caused the elders' expression to blacken, and they began to speak in a dissatisfied tone as well. The domain monarch founder loves his wife very deeply and did not remarry after she died. "That's good then." The lady seemed to be completely ignorant of the displeasure in the elder's tone. She looked around her surroundings and said subsequently, "I heard that your domain monarch founder has returned to the Jiang family and has come to this Taiyuan Valley. Go and call him out for me." The elders were angered by the lattice's arrogant words. The Jiang family youths were still unaware of the domain monarch founder's return and were extremely shocked to hear the news. It must be known that to these Jiang family youths, the domain monarch founder was an extremely mighty presence and was a powerful figure in their hearts. He was someone who many people respected deeply. Now that they knew that the domain monarch founder had returned, they were extremely furious to see a lady who was so rude to him. "Who is she? How dare she tell our domain monarch founder to come out and meet her? Where did this crazy woman come from? Just chase her away quickly." The elders' expressions were nowhere better either. They only treated her courteously because they saw that she came here alone and that she was a lady. Yet, she turned out to be incredibly arrogant and irreverent. What exactly are you here for? The domain monarch founder of the Jiang family is not someone you can meet just because you want to. I advise you to leave immediately. Otherwise, I can only chase you out using force. Elder Kuan scoffed coldly. Chapter 1569. Oh my! The lattice eyes were filled with contempt as she scanned the people in the square in a disdainful manner. I'm not interested in wasting time with you all. You better call Jiang Yu out obediently. All the elders and disciples' faces darkened. Insolent. If you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for being impolite. Thinking that she was just a crazy woman, Elder Kuan completely lost his patience. He immediately bolted toward her and aimed a blow at that lady in the red. The lady in red did not have any change in expression. Looking at Elder Kuan, who lunged toward her, she simply lifted her hand slowly and pointed a finger straight at Elder Kuan. Elder Kuan seemed to be stopped by a powerful force and was immediately frozen in midair. What? Elder Kuan's expression changed slightly. The lady waved her finger impatiently. Boom! With a loud crash, Elder Kuan was flung in the direction of the lattice finger movement. Everyone in the square was dumbfounded. Elder Kuan is pretty skilled, yet he's so vulnerable when facing this lady? That lady sent Elder Kuan flying with just one finger? I have no time to waste with you all. Call Jiang Yu out, or I will wreck Taiyuan Valley today. The lady in red narrowed her eyes slightly and swung her sleeves. An overbearing sensation of pressure suddenly loomed over everyone's head. Even the elders were breaking out in cold sweat under this powerful pressure. How does she have such terrifying power? The lattice slight revelation of her power already terrified everyone. Everyone's heart sank. This lady and the domain monarch founder seemed to be acquainted for a long time. And at the thought that the domain monarch founder's acquaintances must all be top powerful figures, the elders immediately exchanged a look. We have offended you, senior. However, even if you want us to look for our domain monarch founder, you need to tell us your name. Otherwise, how can we notify the domain monarch founder? Realizing that the lattice skills were way beyond all of them, the elders softened their tone at once. The lady in red waved a hand and withdrew the pressure on everyone before responding. Tell Jiang Yu that I, Xia Wushang, want to meet him. Elder Qian immediately went to notify Jiang Yu after hearing her name. Currently, Jiang Yu had just passed down swordplay techniques to Yi Qingtang. He had intended to let Yi Qingtang try the 4 sets of techniques for him to see, but he noticed Elder Qian coming in hurriedly. MHM? What is it? Jiang Yu asked in a low voice. Elder Qian immediately said, reporting domain monarch founder, a lady wishes to meet you. A lady wishes to meet me? Jiang Yu furrowed his brows slightly and said coldly, what lady is this? How demanding of her. Does she think she can meet me just because she wants to? Elder Qian replied. She said her name is Xia Wushang. Jiang Yu's expression changed the moment Elder Qian spoke. What did you say her name was? Jiang Yu looked at Elder Qian strangely. Xia Wushang. Jiang Yu took a deep breath secretly and responded immediately. I got it. Tell her that I will come in a while. Elder Qian did not suspect anything and immediately returned as he thought to himself. This Xia Wushang is indeed the domain monarch founder's old acquaintance. Once Elder Qian left, Jiang Yu's expression turned ugly immediately. Yu Qiong noticed Jiang Yu's expression and could not help but laugh. This Xia Wushang is truly infatuated with you. She has already chased you for over 10,000 years and is even able to find this place now. Chapter 1570. Oh my 3. Clearly, Yu Qiong knew Xia Wushang as well. Jiang Yu was not the slightest bit interested in talking to Yu Qiong right now and immediately looked at Yi Qingtang. Bring me out of the valley immediately. What? Yi Qingtang was taken aback. What is going on? Didn't Jiang Yu say that he wanted to meet that Xia Wushang earlier on? Why does he want me to bring him out of the valley now? Meet Xia Wushang? Jiang Yu did not want to see her ever again in his life. Jiang Yu was very dashing back in the days, and coupled with his martial talent, many girls fell for him. However, Jiang Yu was deeply in love with his wife and no longer looked at anyone else ever since he fell in love with her. Even if others liked him secretly, he never paid any attention to them. Even after his wife passed, he was unable to put this love behind him. He instead entered the land of infinite demons and kneeled for thousands of years to plead for his wife's revival. Many ladies were head over heels for him, but he had never looked at them. This Xie Wuxiang was also one of the people who adored Jiang Yu. Jiang Yu could simply ignore the person if she was anyone else. But Xie Wuxiang was a powerful figure from the second domain. She was born with extremely great talent and had an arrogant nature. Ever since she met Jiang Yu, she could not forget about him. Regardless of whether Jiang Yu was married, she never gave up and pursued him all the way, tormenting Jiang Yu quite a fair bit. Jiang Yu stayed in the land of infinite demons for 10,000 years, and originally thought that Xie Wuxiang had forgotten about him completely. Yet unexpectedly, he had just returned, and Xie Wuxiang actually got news of it and came over. In the past, Jiang Yu could just spar with Xie Wuxiang when he met her to force her to retreat, but now, don't ask so much. Just bring me out of the valley secretly. Jiang Yu looked at Yi Qingtang and spoke. He knew Xie Wuxiang. Once they met, she would pester him endlessly. Yi Qingtang did not know why Jiang Yu wanted to do this, but could only follow his orders when she saw his expression. Follow me. Jiang Yu looked at Yu Qiong and said. Yu Qiong laid on the couch in an unperturbed manner and waved his hand lazily. For what? She's here to find you. What has it got to do with me? I think you shouldn't run either. You've run away for 10,000 years, and it is about enough. Xie Wuxiang is quite pretty, has a good figure, and is very talented. You should just yield to her. Jiang Yu almost kicked Yu Qiong to the ground. He could not be bothered to talk to Yu Qiong any further, and immediately had Yi Qingtang sneak him out of the valley. Yi Qingtang brought Jiang Yu and flew into the sky and out of the valley. But before they could fly out of the valley, a red figure suddenly appeared before the two people. Jiang Ye's face darkened the moment he saw that blazing red figure. Jiang Yu, you're thinking of running again. Xie Wuxiang, who was floating in the air, squinted her eyes at Jiang Yu. While Jiang Yu was currently in the form of a child, she could clearly sense that it was none other than him given her martial realm. A look of surprise flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes when she saw the gorgeous lady before her. Then, Yi Qingtang slowly landed on the ground with Jiang Yu. Although she knew that Jiang Yu seemed to be avoiding this lady, they were spotted right now, and there was no other choice. Elders and disciples rushed over hurriedly as well. Xie Wuxiang, I've already told you clearly that we are not fated. Don't pester me anymore. Jiang Yu said with a dark expression. Xie Wuxiang's eyes narrowed and suddenly swept across Yi Qingtang, who was beside Jiang Yu. 1571 Oh my 4 Xie Wuxiang's gaze sharpened immediately when she noticed Yi Qingtang's beautiful face. You didn't accept me last time because of your wife. Now is it because of this little lover beside you? Great. Since that's the case, I will kill her and see if there's still anyone who can stand between you and me. Xie Wuxiang had a murderous glare, and she directly aimed a blow at Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang was dumbfounded. How did she become Jiang Ye's little lover? Yi Qingtang's face was ash-white as she looked at the murderous air surrounding Xie Wuxiang and the powerful aura that filled the air. Madam Founder, you're mistaken. I am not the Domain Monarch Founder's lover. I am just a clan member of the Jiang family. Yi Qingtang said hurriedly, seeing that she was about to be struck dead by the jealous Xie Wuxiang. The words Madam Founder extinguished the murderous air around Xie Wuxiang immediately. She retracted her hand abruptly and smiled at Yi Qingtang, whom she wanted to kill just a while ago. Jiang Ye's face darkened further. Yi Qingtang broke out in cold sweat out of fear. Sorry, Domain Monarch Founder. She could not be blamed. It was really because Xie Wuxiang was too powerful. He who understood the times was a wise man. Little girl, you are a good talker. Are you really his descendant? Xie Wuxiang spoke. Yes, I am indeed a descendant of the Jiang family. Yi Qingtang immediately disassociated herself from Jiang Yu. She would die really wrongfully if she was killed for being viewed as Jiang Ye's lover. Xie Wuxiang was still a little doubtful, and she looked at Jiang Yu. She knew that Jiang Yu would never lie about such matters. Otherwise, he would not have rejected her repeatedly over these years. That's right, Jiang Yu said. Xia Wushang chuckled immediately and looked at Yi Qingtang with a friendlier attitude. Perhaps the address of Madam Founder was really too much to her liking. There will only be one person as my wife in my life. Xia Wushang, there is no possibility between us, Jiang Yu said coldly. Xia Wushang's expression darkened in just a moment. Jiang Yu, I've pursued you for so many years, but you hugged your dead wife and kneeled in the land of infinite demons for so many years. Am I not better than a dead woman? Xia Wushang's expression was dark to the extreme. Xia Wushang was endowed with great talents and was a known figure in the second domain. She had a beautiful appearance, and plenty of people did all they could to gain her favor. She was a delicate treasure cherished by the masses, but she compromised in every possible way when it came to Jiang Yu. She had pursued him for 10,000 years, yet he wasn't even willing to spare her an eye. Jiang Yu, my patience is limited. I'll give you one more chance. Are you willing to be with me? Xia Wushang narrowed her eyes as a trace of murderous intent emerged in her eyes. The spirit energy around her gradually intensified, and an invisible pressure diffused in the air. The surrounding elders and disciples who followed over were truly dumbfounded. Why didn't they expect this Xia Wushang and their domain monarch founder to have such a relationship? Watching the formidable Xia Wushang release her pressure gradually, everyone in the Jiang family could not help but break out in a cold sweat. Jiang Ye's complexion did not seem well either, but he showed no signs of giving in. Jiang Yu, I'm asking you one last time. Are you willing to be with me? If you reject me again, I won't let you be with anyone else in the future, even if that means killing you, Xia Wushang said. 1572. Oh, my 5-inch, my answer is still the same, even if you ask me 1,000 more times. Jiang Yu replied emotionlessly. The Jiang family members broke out in a cold sweat when they saw Jiang Ye's resolute attitude and Xia Wushang's darkening expression. Domain Monarch Founder, there is nothing bad about Madam Founder either. Why don't you yield to her? An elder said while enduring the powerful pressure. Just Xia Wushang's skills themselves made her completely qualified to become the Madam Founder of the Jiang family. The Domain Monarch Founder's wife had passed a long time ago, and it was time he lay it down. Moreover, this Xia Wushang was so infatuated with the Domain Monarch Founder, and such devotion was truly hard to find. Jiang Yu glanced expressionlessly at the people who made these sarcastic remarks. If he wanted to yield to her, he would have done so a long time ago. Why would he wait until now? All right, you forced me to do this. Xia Wushang laughed from the extreme anger, and her gorgeous face was filled with smiles. Jiang Yu, I, Xia Wushang, have never treated anyone with such devotion, but you trampled over it in the mud. Since I can't gain your heart or your person, I will not let anyone else have what I want. Then, the aura around Xia Wushang surged, and a murderous look appeared in her eyes. Seeing the enraged Xia Wushang, Jiang Yu secretly squeezed the space ring on his finger and immediately took out a Dharma treasure, which he used to fly to the sky and escape. He originally did not intend to use the Dharma treasure at this time. Otherwise, he would not have told Yi Qingtang to bring him out. However, he could only do so now. The people of the Jiang family did not expect Jiang Yu to want to avoid Xia Wushang to this extent, and were stunned. Jiang Yu, you think you can run? With a scoff, Xia Wushang suddenly soared up and chased after him. Everyone remained stunned as they looked at Jiang Yu and Xia Wushang, soaring to the sky one after another. Madam Founder only said that in the moment of anger. Domain Monarch Founder, why must you be this way? Domain Monarch Founder, don't leave. Madam Founder is devoted to you and will not really kill you. She may have said that in the moment of. That person was not done with his sentence. But Xia Wushang formed a sword with her red spirit energy and slashed at Jiang Yu. Jiang Yu barely dodged the sword aura, but the mountain beneath him was struck into two instantly. The person who was trying to persuade Jiang Yu just now was flabbergasted. She freaking wanted to kill him for real. Yi Qingtang was dumbfounded, as well as she did not expect Xia Wushang to be for real. Based on her stance, Xia Wushang really wanted to kill Jiang Yu in the sky. Jiang Yu and Xia Wushang flew across the sky rapidly one after another, and the sight left everyone in the Jiang family dumbstruck. This is a crime of passion. The little white tiger in Yi Qingtang's arms mumbled meaningfully as it looked at the two figures that gradually went out of sight. Yi Qingtang was silent. What darn crime of passion? She had just learned 4 sets of techniques from the domain monarch founder. And he left just like that. Based on Xia Wusheng's attitude, their fight would probably continue on endlessly. Yi Qingtang reckoned that she need not hope to meet Jiang Yu anytime soon. Yi Qingtang was upset and disappointed, and such emotions were felt even more strongly by the Jiang family elders. The domain monarch founder finally returned to the Jiang family, yet had to leave so soon? However, they really did not expect the domain monarch founder to have such a love affair outside. Furthermore, Xia Wushang actually was serious about her words. Those two people flew so rapidly that even Elder Qian and the rest did not have the chance to persuade Jiang Yu any further. 1573 Cultivation. 1. The youths of the Jiang family had not gotten over their excitement about the domain monarch founder's return, yet the domain monarch founder had left already. While they were very surprised about the domain monarch founder's child form, they did not think much about it, and simply thought that the domain monarch founder's powers were boundless, and that he learned a special technique to return to his youth. Elder Qian and the rest saw that there were no other options, and could only instruct everyone to continue with their cultivation. Meanwhile, Yi Qingtang sighed softly and returned to her room, where she practiced the 4 sets of techniques Jiang Yu taught her. Those techniques may look simple, but mastering them was not an easy thing to do. Just the finger technique itself took Yi Qingtang an entire afternoon. Nonetheless, her finger pointing was still weak and had no imposing air at all. Yi Qingtang was not anxious though, as she was aware that this foundational technique could not be achieved in a day and had to be practiced diligently. For 2 whole days, Yi Qingtang had been figuring out the method to master this finger technique and repeatedly cultivated the same technique. Despite her efforts, there were no signs of impatience on her face. If she was exhausted, she would sit on the ground to cultivate before continuing with the technique once she recovered slightly. Becoming a powerful figure was never easy. What Yi Qingtang had more than others was nothing but the willpower she sharpened over 300 years. Knowing that it was beneficial to her, she could continue to practice no matter how difficult and mundane the process was. After 2 sleepless days, Yi Qingtang was finally much more familiar with the finger technique. Although not as imposing as Jiang Yu, her finger pointing could now cause a gentle breeze to blow around her finger, and her finger had much more power than before. The little white tiger was sprawled on the bed as it fell into a trance while watching Yi Qingtang, repeating the same thing over and over again, as though she never got tired. If not for Elder Qian summoning Yi Qingtang, she could probably still cultivate in the room alone for half a month and remain oblivious to fatigue and hunger. Elder Qian. Yi Qingtang greeted him respectfully when she arrived at Elder Qian's living quarters. Elder Qian glanced at Yi Qingtang with a rather complicated expression and sighed in his heart. Yi Qingtang was originally brought into the elder cabinet by the domain monarch founder, who also intended to personally teach her. However, Xia Wusheng's arrival 2 days ago messed up this plan. The domain monarch founder was nowhere to be found in the past 2 days, and it seemed that he would be unable to return anytime soon. With his departure, Yi Qingtang, who had just entered Taiyuan Valley, was now all alone. If she had outstanding talent coupled with her mutated heavenly demon bloodline, she would definitely be a talented junior valued by all. However, she seemed rather weak and worthless. Nevertheless, she ultimately had the Jiang family bloodline, and since she had already entered Taiyuan Valley, there was no such thing as casting her aside. After a discussion among the cabinet elders, it was decided that Elder Qian, who returned together with Yi Qingtang, would take over the domain monarch founder's job in guiding Yi Qingtang through the foundation martial techniques of the Jiang family. Elder Qian did not think much about teaching Yi Qingtang, thinking that the domain monarch founder left Taiyuan Valley not long after he returned. Elder Qian came to the conclusion that the founder must have not taught Yi Qingtang any martial techniques. Then Elder Qian glanced at Yi Qingtang and spoke. "You have entered Taiyuan Valley, and should learn the martial techniques of the Jiang family. However, you do not have a solid foundation, and still need to rebuild it. The Jiang family has a total of 4 types of foundational techniques. I will teach you the finger technique first today. Remember it by heart, and cultivate diligently when you return. I will teach you other things next time. Although he knew that Yi Qingtang's talent was mediocre, Elder Qian was still a rather responsible person. 1574 Cultivation. Yi Qingtang originally planned to tell Elder Qian that the domain monarch founder had already taught her 4 sets of techniques. However, she stopped herself when she considered the difficulties she faced when practicing the finger technique. The domain monarch founder was not in the valley right now, and she could not ask him about anything she did not understand. Now that Elder Qian was going to reteach her, she could watch carefully and ensure that there were no errors in her cultivation in the future. Curiosity, diligence, and humility. Yi Qingtang understood their importance and genuinely wanted to ask for guidance. Elder Qian saw Yi Qingtang's positive attitude and was satisfied. Even if she could not become a top powerful figure, she could not ruin the Jiang family's reputation at the very least, and her future was dependent on her luck. Elder Qian immediately performed the finger technique before Yi Qingtang's eyes immediately. While Elder Qian's finger technique was powerful, it was still quite lacking when compared to the domain monarch founders. However, he did his best as he was extremely patient and told Yi Qingtang about all the important points. Yi Qingtang looked very closely, comparing how she practiced in the past 2 days and Elder Qian's finger technique. She faintly felt the difference and was grateful on the inside. Elder Qian was rather pleased with Yi Qingtang's serious attitude toward learning. Although he was aware of Yi Qingtang's mediocre talent, he guided her attentively on the account that she was studious and serious. Elder Qian guided Yi Qingtang repeatedly for the entire afternoon and corrected some of her mistakes, which benefited her understanding greatly. Practice well when you're back. I will teach you other things after some time, Elder Qian said slowly. There were many youths in the valley, and he himself had quite a number of disciples as well. Thus, he had no time to monitor Yi Qingtang's cultivation all the time. Given Yi Qingtang's talent, she probably needed at least 1 month to be familiar with and master this finger technique. It would be alright if she could practice diligently, but if she slacked off, nothing could help her anymore. Yi Qingtang nodded and thanked Elder Qian sincerely. Although she could feel that Elder Qian did not value her much, he was impartial and did what he could, which she was extremely grateful for. As Elder Qian watched Yi Qingtang leave the room, he could not help but shake his head and sigh. What a pity! Elder Qian was very satisfied with Yi Qingtang's eagerness to learn, but if her talent could be a little greater. Sigh. Elder Qian did not think too much either, and these thoughts were diverted away when other youths came to seek guidance. After all, the Jiang family still had to prioritize the training of top talents. As for Yi Qingtang, her outcome was dependent on her luck. After gaining Elder Qian's guidance, Yi Qingtang had a sudden flash of insight and was already very familiar with the finger technique in just 2 days. Afterward, Yi Qingtang went through the palm technique, movement technique, and swordplay technique individually to familiarize herself. Perhaps because of Elder Qian's attentive guidance, where he pointed out the main points of the Jiang family's techniques, Yi Qingtang understood many key aspects of those 3 techniques without any extra guidance from Elder Qian, and could learn them smoothly and easily. Yi Qingtang almost never left her room for a whole month. Apart from stepping out to have a meal every 2 or 3 days, the remaining time was all spent in the room cultivating. She either familiarized herself with the 4 techniques or cultivated through meditation. She truly wasted no time. Exactly because of such diligence, Yi Qingtang was skilled in all these 4 techniques in just a month. Furthermore, Yi Qingtang also obtained a huge advancement in her skills through this high-intensity cultivation. 1575 Cultivation. 3. She advanced straight from the peak of Arcane Supremacy 8th Heaven to the peak of Arcane Supremacy 10th Heaven, and was only 1 step away from the Heavenly Venerate realm. Although Yi Qingtang's martial realm was low, She mastered 4 new sets of cultivation techniques and advanced 2 small realms consecutively in just a month. This speed was indeed shocking. It was just that no one noticed her because she rarely left her room, and neither her martial realm nor endowment was high. Yi Qingtang was not anxious though. Thinking that she still had 10,000 honor points in her hand, she decided to rest for a day before heading to the Jiang family's sacred cultivation ground to increase her skills. After making this plan, Yi Qingtang surprisingly allowed herself to rest for a day. The moment she opened her door, she saw Jiang Xiaobai kneeling at her door while playing with a baganadier with a lowered head. Hearing the sound of the door, Jiang Xiaobai looked up immediately, and a wide smile bloomed on her face suddenly. "Sister Qing, I've been waiting for a long time. If you hadn't come out soon, I'm afraid I would have died of starvation outside your door." Yi Qingtang did not know how to react when she saw the pitiful-looking Jiang Xiaobai. Yi Qingtang did not know what was up with this little girl, but every time Yi Qingtang left her room to eat in this past month, Yi Qingtang would always see her and be dragged to have her meal. Gradually, the two of them reached a subtle rapport, and every 2 to 3 days, Jiang Xiaobai would wait for Yi Qingtang outside her door to have their meal together. "If you die from starvation, wouldn't I be a huge sinner? Get up. Let's go and eat together." Smiles filled Yi Qingtang's eyes. She was not against Jiang Xiaobai getting closer to her. Although she felt that it was rather strange, she somehow felt that Jiang Xiaobai did not mean any harm. With a grin, Jiang Xiaobai hugged Yi Qingtang's arms and walked out. Along the corridors, Jiang Qi saw the back view of Jiang Xiaobai and Yi Qingtang leaving together and frowned instinctively, but he remained silent in the end. Yi Qingtang rarely left her room this month, and in addition, she had just come to Taiyuan Valley. Thus, logically speaking, there should only be a few people who recognized her. However, as she was always with Jiang Xiaobai whenever she appeared, she attracted the attention of many people. Jiang Xiaobai had an extroverted personality. Yi Qingtang found out that many people always greeted Jiang Xiaobai whenever she was out with her, and it seemed that Jiang Xiaobai had good relations with the people in the valley. "Xiaobai, why are you here so late today? We were all waiting for you." A 16 or 17-year-old waved his hand once he spotted Jiang Xiaobai's figure. A group of youths who usually hung out with Jiang Xiaobai was already seated at the table. "Who told you all to wait? It's not like I can't eat by myself. How long-winded," said Jiang Xiaobai before pulling Yi Qingtang to sit with them. The youths at the table were all focused on Jiang Xiaobai as they chatted and laughed. Because of Jiang Xiaobai, Yi Qingtang frequently had her meals together with this group of teenagers. However, Yi Qingtang was like a transparent person that did not exist to them, and barely anyone talked to her. Yi Qingtang did not mind either, as she was fully occupied with cultivation matters. However, she vaguely sensed that although these youths always joked around with Jiang Xiaobai, they seemed to be rather fearful of Jiang Xiaobai from their tone. Even if they were chastised by Jiang Xiaobai, they mostly laughed it away and never fought back. "Sister Qing, are you still going to stay in your room this afternoon?" Jiang Xiaobai blinked and asked Yi Qingtang while biting her chopsticks. 1576 Cultivation 4. "I wish to go to the sacred ground," Yi Qingtang said. The moment she spouted those words, the youths who ignored her focused their eyes on her for the first time and looked at her with odd expressions. "You have honor points?" one of the youths asked doubtfully. Yi Qingtang could tell his disbelief, but did not take it to heart. "The sacred ground? Which sacred ground do you wish to go to?" The Taiyuan Valley's sacred ground is split into 5 canyons, and each of them has a different cultivation effect. The better the effect, the more honor points required. Jiang Xiaobai explained, "I haven't thought about it yet. I'll take a look then." Yi Qingtang only had 10,000 honor points, and still did not know how many honor points were required for each of the 5 valleys, so she still needed to take a look before deciding. Biting the ends of the chopstick, Jiang Xiaobai took a look at Yi Qingtang, and did not say anything else. Yi Qingtang left first after finishing her meal. Although she originally wanted to rest for a day, she abandoned that idea and headed to the sacred cultivation grounds at once. She did not have any more time. Once Yi Qingtang was out of everyone's sight, those youths finally spoke. Xiaobai, this Yi Qingtang's endowment is mediocre, and is the bottom among all the youths in the bottom. Why are you always with her? A youth frowned rather unhappily. If not for Jiang Xiaobai, they would never interact with someone with mediocre talent like Yi Qingtang. Jiang Xiaobai did not rush to reply. Rather, she took a sip of water at her own pace, wiped her mouth slowly, and finally replied, "I'll hang out with whoever I want. Since when was it up to you all to tell me what to do?" Her tone was calm, but devoid of the usual clarity, and more loaded with gloom. Those youths sharply sensed Jiang Xiaobai's unhappiness, and immediately changed their words. "Xiaobai, we did not mean to tell you what to do. You also know that Jiang Yinyan and those bunch of people are up to something recently. The martial arts championship is in 5 months. And I heard that the people on Jiang Yanyan's side are working extremely hard for it. We don't wish for Jiang Yanyan to obtain a spot in the martial arts championship. In terms of endowments and innate talent, no one else is better than you in the entire Taiyuan Valley." "That's right. If you were the same age as Jiang Yanyan, that fellow would already have been crushed by you. He is so arrogant now only because of the fact that he has been in the valley since young. Why waste time on that Yi Qingtang? If you like her, the few of us can just give her some advice. You can just set your mind at rest and prepare for the martial arts championship." To these youths, they simply had no idea why Jiang Xiaobai treated Yi Qingtang so differently, and neither could they understand what she was thinking. They only treated it as though Jiang Xiaobai was interested in Yi Qingtang. There was truly no need for Jiang Xiaobai to waste time interacting with a teenage girl that just entered the valley with low skills and endowment. "That's right. If you think highly of her, we can just train with her." Everyone else agreed. Given Yi Qingtang's realm, she would benefit greatly when any one of them provided a few tips. "I know what I'm doing. Instead of nagging over here, why don't you all scram back to cultivate? I heard that you all fought with Jiang Yanyan's people, and that the outcome was not too good." Jiang Xiaobai cast them a look. Everyone laughed awkwardly. Chapter 1577 Cultivation 5 The Jiang family had countless extraordinary talents, but those who could stand at the tip of the pyramid could be counted. Jiang Xiaobai and Jiang Yinyan were one of those few people. Furthermore, Jiang Yinyan was currently the most formidable junior in Taiyuan Valley. Some elders even may not win against him in a spar. Ever since Jiang Xiaobai and Jiang Yinyan met, they were on unfriendly terms, and the youths on both sides had been fighting both openly and covertly for a long time. The martial arts championship spot was one of the targets of their competition. Although the number of spots available for the martial arts championship was still unknown, tension had already begun filling the air. On the other side, Yi Qingtang headed to the Jiang family's sacred ground. It was the deepest corner of Taiyuan Valley, where a mountain range split the boundless valley into 5 canyons. A Jiang family warden guarding outside the canyon was recording something with his head lowered, and only looked up when he felt someone getting close. His eyes subsequently landed on the alluring girl, who carried a little white tiger in her arms. "Hello. I wish to enter the sacred grounds to cultivate. May I know what rules there are?" Yi Qingtang asked. The warden glanced at Yi Qingtang and found her to be extremely foreign. Then, he recalled the rumor of the Domain Monarch founder's return. He seemed to have heard that the Domain Monarch founder brought a Jiang family junior back to train with great care. However, that junior was found to lack endowment after the test, so the Domain Monarch founder lost his patience and left without caring about her anymore. When the Domain Monarch founder left Taiyuan Valley, only a few elders and juniors were present, and everyone had a tacit agreement to keep mum about the reason behind his departure. Rather, those who were unaware falsely assumed that the Domain Monarch founder was dissatisfied over a lacking junior, who he chose, and thus left to not waste any time. The warden did not speak and merely raised his hand and tapped the golden tablet at the entrance, signaling Yi Qingtang to look at it herself. The Taiyuan Valley sacred ground was split into 5 canyons, namely the Gong, Shang, Jiao, Zheng and Yi canyons. The cultivation effects became more obvious and prominent in that sequential order. A day of cultivation in the Gong Canyon was equivalent to 10 days outside. A day of cultivation in the Shang Canyon was equivalent to 20 days outside. Following this pattern, a day of cultivation in the Yu Canyon was equivalent to 50 days outside. However, the closer to the end of the sequence, the larger the number of honor points required for that canyon. A day of cultivation, in just the Gong Canyon, required 2,000 honor points, while the Yu Canyon required 10,000 honor points. Yi Qingtang had a total of 10,000 honor points, and if she used them in the Yu Canyon, she would have to leave after a day. Apart from increasing the cultivation speed, the spirit energy in the different canyons had different refinement effects on the body. The closer to the end of the sequence, the better the effects of the canyon. Yi Qingtang weighed her options and ultimately decided on the Gong Canyon. Her current realm was not high, and there was a limit to the amount of spirit energy she could absorb. If she went to the Yu Canyon, the one-day duration would probably be wasted. I want to enter the Gong Canyon for 5 days. Yi Qingtang handed in the honor points to exchange for a chance to cultivate in the Gong Canyon for 5 days, and was immediately led into the Gong Canyon by the warden. Right after Yi Qingtang entered, 2 youths who were approaching the sacred grounds noticed the back view of Yi Qingtang entering Gong Canyon. "Isn't that the girl that has always been beside Jiang Xiaobai recently?" A youth squinted his eyes and said, "Jiang Xiaobai has such great innate talent, but God knows what she is thinking to actually waste time on that girl. I think she can forget about reaching Brother Yanyan's realm in this lifetime." Another youth sneered. Chapter 1578 Breakthrough 1 Jiang Xiaobai has always been like that. But Jiang Yulong and the others still follow her lead. I think they're all fools. The 2 youths conversed for a while before leaving together. Yi Qingtang slowly walked into Gong Valley. A cool breeze blew from the valley, brushing past her cheeks. The entire valley was filled with rich spirit energy. There were many air vents in the ground, and from time to time, steam would shoot out of them, filling the entire valley with hot steam. Yi Qingtang walked within the valley for a while, and noticed that the spirit energy was mostly evenly distributed throughout the valley. However, there was a little more spirit energy in the areas where there were more air vents. There's probably something peculiar beneath the ground of this valley. Yi Qingtang's gaze fell on the air vents that were continually shooting out steam. She felt curious, but did not waste time analyzing it. She could only stay in the valley for 5 days. She must make the best of this short time. Now her cultivation realm was just a step away from the heavenly venerate realm. Otherwise, she would not have used up all her honor points here. Arcane supremacy and heavenly venerate were just a realm apart, but between them was a gulf that was almost impossible to cross. Once crossed, one would realize that the realms were completely different. Yi Qingtang calmed herself down and sat cross-legged at a spot with the most air vents. Although steam surrounded her, and it was as hot and suffocating as an oven, she slowly closed her eyes and allowed herself to sink completely into the spirit energy. She slowly guided her spirit energy around her body and through her meridian points. She cultivated for 5 days and 5 nights. During these 5 days and nights, Yi Qingtang did not drink a drop of water or move an inch. She continually guided her spirit energy around her body and sensed that the invisible door to the next realm, which had been blocking her, was being slowly pushed aside. The surrounding steam reddened Yi Qingtang's pale face. The little white tiger, who had been cuddled in her arms, could not stand the damp heat of the steam. It shook its fur and crawled down to look for a cooler place. But at that moment, the little white tiger saw that Yi Qingtang's expression lacked its usual willfulness, so it kept quiet and did not make any noise. On the 5th night, in the quiet of the night, a golden ray of light suddenly burst forth from Yi Qingtang. The golden ray rushed towards the heavens, lighting up the entire dark valley. But the sacred ground was deep within Taiyuan Valley, and it was late at night, so no one noticed these signs of a breakthrough. When the golden light shot back into Yi Qingtang's body, Yi Qingtang suddenly opened her eyes. The golden glow that floated around her meant she had successfully broken through the first door of the heavenly venerate realm within these 5 days. She had finally entered the heavenly venerate realm. She puffed out a hot breath and a smile surfaced on her face. She lifted her hand and casually wiped away the sweat on her cheeks. Then she looked at the time. She still had half a day before she had to leave the valley. Although she had received a breakthrough, Yi Qingtang did not dare to waste time. These 10,000 honor points had been hard to come by. She intended to fully grasp every minute and every second and continue cultivating. Yi Qingtang only walked out of Gong Valley the next afternoon. Her entire aura had changed subtly. It's a pity that I've used up all my honor points. Yi Qingtang returned to her room to wash herself up. She sensed the new strength within her body. She might have entered the heavenly venerate realm, but she still had quite some way to go before she could enter the martial arts championship. There were still 5 months left. Within these 5 months, she had to do her best to narrow the gap between her and others. Chapter 1579 Two-Star Constellation 1. The youths that hung around Jiang Shaobai were around the second or third heaven of the heavenly venerate realm, not to speak of the others. It would be wonderful if I was at the Temple of Shadows. Then I might have been able to enter the illusory void to train. Yi Qingtang could not help thinking of the illusory void in the Temple of Shadows. Although the god of nature was not very reliable, the illusory void was a wonderful thing. Too bad that it was not realistic for her to return to the Temple of Shadows. Just as Yi Qingtang was thinking about it again, she suddenly felt a strange warmth coming from her wrist. Yi Qingtang looked down puzzled. The 9 souls ring on her wrist, that had belonged to the Holy Lord of Shadows, was now glowing with a blinding light. For a moment, Yi Qingtang could not figure out why it was glowing, and she was enveloped by the glow. Yi Qingtang was blinded by the bright light, but the illusory void's voice rang in her ears. Fortunate explorer, welcome back to the illusory void. Isn't that the god of nature's voice? Yi Qingtang was startled. The blinding light faded. What appeared before her eyes was not her room in Taiyuan Valley, but the nebula-filled illusory void that she had bid farewell to some time ago. The god of nature's radiant body floated before her eyes. A look of surprise flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes, and she glanced at the 9 souls ring on her wrist. The 9 souls ring originally belonged to the Holy Lord of Shadows, and the illusory void had been sealed in the temple by the Holy Lord of Shadows herself. Perhaps the Holy Lord of Shadows had left her imprint on her private possessions, turning it into a key to the illusory void. That way, the Holy Lord of Shadows could enter the illusory void whenever she liked, even if she was not in the Temple of Shadows. Fortunate explorer, which constellation would you like to enter this time? The languid radiant body floated and shifted around before Yi Qingtang's eyes. Its tone was solemn and calm, but Yi Qingtang could discern a thread of anticipation in its voice. As the radiant Buddha's voice rang out, the surrounding constellations drifted forth, as if they would swallow her at any moment. Yi Qingtang glanced at the various constellations. She had chosen the 1-star constellation previously, because it was lowest ranked, and would allow her to advance the most. Yi Qingtang knew that the higher the constellation level, the greater the effect it would have on her cultivation. But having experienced the 1-star constellation, Yi Qingtang realized that although it could increase her cultivation state within a short time, she would need a period of refinement before she could fully grasp it. Also, since she could enter the illusory void anytime, she could take her time. So Yi Qingtang lifted her hand and pointed at the 2-star constellation. Said the radiant body. Yi Qingtang could vaguely hear the radiant body muttering. But when she glanced at it, the radiant body appeared normal. You really won't consider the others? The 4-star constellation is pretty good. The radiant body seemed to want to promote the other constellations. Yi Qingtang had personally experienced the high-level constellations that the radiant body had termed the best and most suitable. She had almost died there, so she chose to pass over any of the radiant Buddha's recommendations. No need. I'll go there first, said Yi Qingtang. The radiant body seemed rather wistful. It slowly summoned the 2-star constellation. Then, Yi Qingtang picked up the little white tiger, who had been sprawled on her, and flew straight into the 2-star constellation. Chapter 1582 Star Constellation 2. After her experience in the one-star constellation, Yi Qingtang was familiar with entering the world of the constellations. After experiencing heaven and earth spinning around her once again, Yi Qingtang smelled the strong scent of fish. The smell mingled with other odors to form a nauseating stench. Yi Qingtang slowly opened her eyes. Before her was a gloomy and narrow alley. It was getting dark, and the scene before her was shrouded in gray. Yi Qingtang subconsciously waited for a message from this world to surface in her mind. But she waited for a long time without any message appearing. Why are you waiting here? The god of nature, who had transformed into a child, floated out from behind Yi Qingtang. This time, you did not enter anyone's body. You can enter this world in your own body. The god of nature seemed to guess why Yi Qingtang was waiting and slowly explained it to her. Only then did Yi Qingtang study her clothing and discover she was wearing her original clothes. The space ring on her finger was also familiar. You need not have any particular identity to enter the world of constellations. You may enter in the body of someone from that world and take over their identity, or you may enter as yourself. The god of nature slowly explained. If she entered the world in someone's body, she would directly gain the original owner's knowledge of the world. If she came as herself, she would have no understanding of the world and would have to slowly explore it. Yi Qingtang did not feel that there was much difference between the two situations. In fact, she thought it was more convenient to enter as herself. Just as Yi Qingtang was preparing to question the god of nature about her current mission, she suddenly heard the clatter of a carriage. Lights flickered in the entrance of the dim alley. Although night was falling, there were still many people milling around. Yi Qingtang glanced at the people passing through the alley, and a look of surprise surfaced in her eyes. Go take a look at this world first. The god of nature was in no hurry to issue Yi Qingtang with her mission. Right now, Yi Qingtang needed to familiarize herself with the world she was in. Yi Qingtang slowly walked out of the dark alley. What she saw caused her to widen her eyes. The pedestrians hurrying along the street were all tall with deep-set features. They looked completely different from the people that Yi Qingtang had met previously. Most of them had golden hair and blue eyes or brown hair and green eyes. They had prominent noses and high cheekbones, and all of them were very tall. An alien race? Yi Qingtang could not help but feel curious when she saw this group of people with strange hair and eye colors. But when she examined them closely, she noticed that they did not have the aura of an alien race. The aura that surrounded them was exactly the same as that of the human race. Human race? Yi Qingtang frowned slightly. A troop of heavily armored knights was riding their tall horses across the street. Their armor looked peculiar, as if they were made entirely out of metal, and protected their body completely. Their helmets also completely veiled their features, so that nothing was exposed. A carriage was being escorted by the heavily armored knights. As they crossed the street, a carriage suddenly appeared. On it hung a drawing of a heavily armored man with a pair of wings. He looked somewhat like the winged people, but the structure of his wings was different. Chapter 1581 Two-Star Constellation 3. Bishop of York, please protect our troops. Various prayers emerged from the crowd. The respectful and devout expressions on the people's faces did not vanish, even after the carriage and knights had gone. Yi Qingtang did not know how to feel when she saw this strange scene. These people were clearly humans, but they were completely foreign. Their hair color was like that of an alien race, and all of them, whether male or female, had deep-set features and snow-white skin. Even their attire was completely different from the clothes that Yi Qingtang was familiar with. Here, the women mostly wore tight-waisted dresses with long, loose skirts. The men all wore close-fitting clothes similar to the leather armor of martial arts outfits. Yi Qingtang quietly watched the scene before her, as she thought about whether she should find a place to familiarize herself with her environment. She quickly found the place with the densest crowd, a place filled with the fumes of alcohol. Yi Qingtang thought that this must be a restaurant, so she stepped in. She realized that her appearance in the dim firelight had attracted the attention of many pedestrians. When this strange world's large-sized people saw a petite young girl with jet black hair and shining black eyes, they looked horrified. Yi Qingtang entered the establishment that looked like a restaurant and sat down in a corner. After she entered, she realized that this place was not what she had expected. A few bearded, burly men had rolled up their sleeves, showing their well-muscled biceps. They clutched huge mugs and were banging them together. She could vaguely see some white substance that looked like foam continually flowing from the mugs. A woman with an enchanting figure flicked her long curly hair. She was dressed revealingly, and she giggled as she circulated among the men, who also embraced her. Her little hands teased their hairy chests. Yi Qingtang felt that this was a very strange place. Does this adorable young lady want anything? We have intoxicating wine and delicious beef here. The woman who was dressed so revealingly plopped herself down at Yi Qingtang's table. Her reddish-brown hair was long and hung to her shoulders in waves, and her dark green eyes smiled provocatively. Because Yi Qingtang was sitting in the corner, the darkness veiled her hair and eye color, so that others could not see her clearly. Adorable young lady? Yi Qingtang's lips twitched a little. Please, a portion of meat will do. Yi Qingtang spoke slowly in a warm and polite tone. The red-haired girl frowned slightly. Please, will do. What does that mean? But she understood a portion of meat, so she smilingly noted it down and went to prepare it. When she brushed past her companions, she remembered to smile teasingly and say, Hey, did you see that? That poor little lamb has ended up here. Pray that she won't be devoured by the wild beasts here. Fred's bar was a paradise for men. Yi Qingtang was seated in darkness and could hear the shouts from the surrounding people. With her keen sense of hearing, she could clearly hear the voice of every person present. She needed to extract information about this world from their conversations. 1582 Two-star constellation. For amidst the shouting and scolding, Yi Qingtang could vaguely discern that the country she was in was called the Supreme League Kingdom. It was the most ambitious country on the mainland, and it had the greatest military strength compared to others. The knights of this kingdom had made incursions in every neighboring country and conquered much land. Any hostility was crushed to dust between the steel hooves of the Supreme League Kingdom's cavalry. As the Supreme League Kingdom expanded continually, another two countries, which were similarly ambitious, sheltered under the Supreme League Kingdom's wings and began a battle to dominate the world. But this battle against the rest of the world was at an impasse. A few powerful countries that had taken a neutral stance at first had become displeased by the Supreme League Kingdom's invasions and ordered punitive expeditions against the Supreme League Kingdom. Yi Qingtang quickly absorbed this information. Who knew what kind of mission that awful god of nature would give her? She glanced around, wondering what the god of nature was doing. Yi Qingtang was rendered speechless by what she saw. Only she could see that the god of nature had mixed in with the crowd and was dancing a strange dance with the curvaceous lady and the burly men. Does that mean that he just wanted to seize the opportunity to enter the various worlds and have some fun? Yi Qingtang was just feeling helpless when the curvaceous lady placed a plate of beef that was still oozing blood before her. She also gave her a blunt knife and a fork with broken tines. Yi Qingtang felt perplexed when she looked at the two utensils. Are there no chopsticks? Yi Qingtang looked helpless. She was about to throw the beef that was oozing with blood into the little white tiger's mouth when there was a sudden disturbance at the bar. A few well-built men, with their faces reddened with alcohol, had started brawling. The entire place was in chaos, and various utensils were sent flying. The shrill screams of a woman mingled with the shouts of the men. Although Yi Qingtang was sitting in a corner, she saw a burly man flying straight at her. She subconsciously raised her hand and caught the burly man, then placed him on the ground. The burly man seemed to be drunk. The moment he landed on the ground, he turned and tried to punch Yi Qingtang's head. A group of busybodies saw that he had suddenly swung at the petite young lady, and they roared in excitement. Yi Qingtang's expression did not change when she saw that this ungrateful man had swung his fist at her. She single-handedly caught the burly man's fist. The soft, pale little hand seized the fist that was even larger than her head. As the burly man realized that his fist would not budge, a look of agony appeared on his large, hairy face. Get lost, Yi Qingtang said coldly. Then, she lifted her hand slightly and flung him aside. The burly man fell with a crash, splintering the table and chairs, and causing the crowd to roar with laughter. "Charlie, your muscles are like cotton wool. What a joke. You can't even manage a little fellow." The burly man who had been flung aside was irritated and angry. He roared with rage, and flung a huge beer barrel at Yi Qingtang. Will there be any end to this? Yi Qingtang frowned slightly. She had nothing to say about the actions of this barbarian. She picked up the little white tiger, and with a leap, her petite figure vanished before everyone's eyes. When she next appeared, she was standing behind the burly man. Her soft, pale little hand grasped the burly man's neck. Then she smashed his huge body onto the ground. 1583 Black, which won the mouth of the embarrassed and angry burly man, was filled with blood after his fall. He raised his head and was about to curse at her. Then, he saw the beautiful young girl standing under the lamplight. Her long black hair was loose, and her black eyes were slightly narrowed. With just one glance, the burly man grew extraordinarily frightened. He quivered as he kneeled on the floor, as if he had seen something terrifying. A strange mood hung over the bar, and there was an unprecedented dead silence. Had she been too rough? Yi Qingtang could not help but feel puzzled as she looked at the frozen crowd. She could not see any spirit energy moving around these people. The spirit energy in this world was average. From the way the men in this bar fought, Yi Qingtang could only describe their fighting abilities as barbaric. The god of nature was having fun. When he saw that the place had come to a standstill, he landed on Yi Qingtang with laughing eyes. Yi Qingtang had a feeling that this fellow was up to no good. A few slender men sneaked out of the back door of the bar, when they saw that no one was paying attention to them. Yi Qingtang had no intention of making a scene here. When she saw the crowd's strange reaction, she thought that she had better leave. In any case, she now had a basic understanding of this world. But before Yi Qingtang could take a single step, the surrounding people shrank back in terror. They looked at her as if they had seen a ghost. Did they have to look so terrified, even if her appearance was somewhat different from them? For the second time in her life, Yi Qingtang doubted her looks. Am I so terrifying? Yi Qingtang could not be bothered to find out why they were so afraid of her. She turned and made her way to leave this foul place. Yi Qingtang had just walked to the door, but had not yet stepped across the threshold, when she suddenly saw a hunchbacked old woman wearing tattered old clothes. The old woman suddenly rushed in front of Yi Qingtang, and her wrinkled face was filled with terror and anger. She took out a silver hexagram, and squeezed a shrill scream from her throat. "You detestable servant of the devil! You are surrounded by holy light. Don't you dare spread disaster to our city." Devil? Servant? Disaster? Yi Qingtang did not understand what the old woman was talking about. But she could clearly see that the old woman was glaring at her with the same expression that some self-righteous people in the first mainland used when attacking a heretic sect. "We must not allow this evil black witch to leave. She has succumbed to the wiles of the devil, and has abandoned God's guidance. Her appearance here will destroy our little town." The old woman screeched in self-righteous tones, as if she was prepared to fight the devil to death. Since she is already here, she has planted the seeds of a curse. The plague will come soon. We can only break the devil's curse by burning this black witch. We must not allow her to leave. The old woman roared with all her might. What black witch, what curse? Yi Qingtang was completely confused by the old woman. As the old woman bellowed, the terrified people in the bar recovered their wits. It was as if the words, "the plague will come soon," had caused even greater terror. Chapter 1584 Black Witch 2A Black, which was a servant of the devil who had sold her soul. They believed in the idea of a devil. In order to serve their master, they would cruelly bring all kinds of disasters on people. The most prominent features of these black witches were their long, jet black hair and dark eyes. The devil came from hell, and his favorite color was black. "We cannot allow her to leave this place, or disaster will come upon our city." Someone in the panicked crowd let out a terrified wail. Those who feared the black witch began to surround the entire bar. Looking at the girl before them with tense expressions, they grabbed onto utensils and wooden stools. Yi Qingtang saw that the crowd before her was terrified. They stared at her in horror and anger. She was still rather puzzled as they continued to scold and roar at her. Black Witch? What's a Black Witch? Yi Qingtang felt that she could still understand what was happening in the one-star constellation. Why was this two-star constellation so bewildering? As she looked at the pairs of terrified and hate-filled eyes, Yi Qingtang felt that if not for the fact that she entered this world in her own body, she would have thought that she had inhabited the body of a villain who had committed all kinds of evil deeds and killed many people. As the people continued to yell and scold, the clatter of horse hooves drew nearer. The people who had gathered outside the bar with burning torches, when they heard the commotion, now turned towards the sound. They saw heavily armored knights on their tall horses heading in their direction. Everyone acted as though they had seen their savior. Hopeful smiles appeared on their terrified faces. They looked reverently at the magnificent carriage behind the knights. It's the Bishop of York. The Bishop of York is here. Damn Black Witch, you're doomed now. The Bishop of York will certainly send you back to hell. The people cheered. As the door of the carriage slowly opened, a middle-aged man dressed in a long, white robe alighted. His eyes were deep-set, and his brown beard was neatly combed. As everyone looked on respectfully, he glanced at the chaotic scene and frowned slightly. Bishop of York, we've discovered a Black Witch. Please help us avert disaster and save those of us who are believers. The old woman who had been viciously snarling at Yi Qingtang rushed over to the Bishop of York the moment she saw him. She piously kneeled before the Bishop of York as she prayed. The Bishop of York's gaze fell on the young girl in the bar. He was startled when he saw that the girl had long, jet-black hair and shining eyes as dark as the night sky. The claws of the devil are reaching for innocent citizens. You servants of the devil are not fit to step into this peaceful and happy place. The Bishop of York spoke solemnly. He narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Yi Qingtang with disdain. With that, the Bishop of York raised his hand slightly. The Vatican's knights that had followed him now advanced a step and handed him a holy chalice made of pure silver. Water sloshed in the holy chalice, reflecting the firelight. "1585 Black Witch 3 When the crowd saw the holy chalice in the Bishop of York's hand, they seemed to see a ray of hope. Pious smiles appeared on their faces. In these years when war was widespread, the Vatican was their greatest source of spiritual comfort. Living on the edge between life and death, only God's guidance, as relayed by the Vatican, could relieve their fears and unease. One might say that in the hearts of the citizens, the Vatican was equivalent to imperial authority. At the Bishop of York's notice, everyone in the bar frantically scrambled to leave. They could not wait to distance themselves from the Black Witch. In a moment, the entire bar was completely empty. Only Yi Qingtang was left. Large numbers of Vatican knights surrounded the bar. They held long spears and stood at the ready. The light of God covers the earth, dispelling all darkness. The servants of evil will eventually meet their destruction. While God is present, He will not permit evil souls like you to tread this earth. The Bishop of York held the silver holy chalice in one hand and a silver hexagram in the other. He raised his arms slightly as he intoned solemnly. Yi Qingtang frowned slightly as she watched this middle-aged man who looked like a quack. The next second, the Bishop of York gestured widely and slowly poured the holy water at the entrance of the bar. I have sealed the servant of the devil within. Souls that have been corrupted by the devil have to be utterly destroyed with fire, the Bishop of York said solemnly. The knights from the Vatican instantly understood what the bishop meant. They poured barrels of strong alcohol on the bar, and then threw their flaming torches into it. In a moment, the entire bar was engulfed by roaring flames. Cheers continually rang from the crowd. They seemed to be celebrating the burning and destruction of the devil's servant. Bishop of York, why did a Black Witch appear here? A devout believer asked in terror. The Bishop of York said, for the past half a year, our Supreme League kingdom has been attacked from all sides. Our enemy countries must have secretly made a deal with the devil to devastate our country with plagues and disasters. And they want to destroy His Majesty's ambition of uniting this mainland. From the Supreme League kingdom's initial sweeping victories to today's impasse, they had experienced innumerable invasions. The stalemate was gradually turning into defeat. This made all the people in this kingdom jittery. To outsiders, the Vatican appeared to be impartial and independent. However, the Bishop of York and the others resided in the Supreme League Kingdom and had naturally benefited from the kingdom. If the Supreme League Kingdom were to be destroyed, they would not be treated well. In order to calm the people, for the past few years, they had blamed the devil for all the disasters and accidents that occurred in the kingdom. This was the enemy countries persecuting them, not God punishing the kingdom. The Vatican had always been the people's greatest source of spiritual support, so since the Bishop of York said so, they believed him without question. Abominable devil, abominable black witch, burn her. We must burn her to death. As tension in the group rose, the crowd's shouting grew more intense. Who in this group has interacted with the Black Witch? The Black Witch is extremely malicious. Just casual contact is sufficient for her to corrupt you. The Bishop of York spoke coldly as his gaze swept through the crowd. Everyone quickly looked away. Even the burly man whom Yi Qingtang had thrown to the ground did not dare to speak, for fear of being implicated. Chapter 1586 Black Witch. 4 black witches specialized in voodoo and black magic. They could curse someone near them without being detected. No one dared to speak out and say that they had any kind of contact with the Black Witch. The glamorous lady who had brought Yi Qingtang her food now clasped her hands before her chest in terror and unease. Her stark white face looked at the Bishop of York as she kneeled in panic. Beloved Bishop of York, the Black Witch tried to fool me into giving her food. I did not know who she was. Can I be saved? Has she put some evil black magic spell on me? The woman was almost crying in fear. My poor child. The Bishop of York looked at the woman's heaving bosom, and his expression wavered. He put on a compassionate look. Don't worry, I have already burnt the Black Witch to death. You must return to the Vatican with me later. I will use holy water to exorcise the black magic curse, and you will be safe. Thank you, Bishop of York. The woman spoke with intense gratitude. Bishop of York, the Black Witch tried to kill me. Bishop, please save me. When the burly man who had fought Yi Qingtang heard that he could be brought back to the Vatican and cleansed with holy water, he immediately rushed forward. The Bishop of York frowned slightly. With that, even more people kneeled and admitted that they had been harmed by the Black Witch. The Bishop of York's expression grew grimmer and grimmer. The truth was that although there were many stories about black witches, and various areas would frequently have stories of finding a black witch and putting her to death, most people only knew that black witches had a different hair and eye color. As that kind of pure black pigmentation was seldom seen in this mainland, its possessors were viewed as a foreign race, and it became proof of contact with the devil. Unless a black witch really displayed her dark arts, there was no way to ascertain their identity. This overgeneralization was merely to keep the people calm and to prevent any witch from escaping their grasp. Now everyone was pleading to receive cleansing with holy water. Within the bar that was now engulfed in roaring flames, Yi Qingtang expressionlessly watched the blazing flames. She did not know what a so-called black witch was in this world, but she had no intention of being burnt to death by a bunch of stupid citizens. Since the god of nature had yet to issue her a mission, Yi Qingtang did not intend to waste time here. With that, Yi Qingtang raised her hand slightly. A white halo suddenly flew from her hand and rushed at the surrounding flames. The next second, she picked up the little white tiger and lightly pushed off from the ground. She leaped up and rushed out of the flames encircling the bar. The Bishop of York, who was still communicating God's purpose to the people, suddenly heard an ear-splitting explosion. He looked up in surprise and saw a huge halo rush out from the bar and float in midair. A slender figure in the center of the white halo suddenly appeared in everyone's line of sight. The Bishop of York was completely stunned by what he saw. The surrounding citizens were terrified when they saw that the Black Witch, who was supposedly burnt to death, had now rushed into the void and was suspended in midair without anything under her feet. Undulating screams immediately rang out. Bishop of York, please save us. This Black Witch is too powerful. The Bishop of York was completely shocked. He stared stupidly at the young girl surrounded by the halo of light. Chapter 1587 White Magician 1. The halo of light surrounding Yi Qingtang seemed to interlace with the moonlight. How pure, holy, and sacred it was. This is white magic, the Bishop of York said, and his mouth was hung ajar in disbelief. It was rumored that the source of magic originally existed in this mainland, and those who possessed the source of magic were divided into two camps. One was black magic, which was used by followers of the devil, while the other was white magic, which represented a believer of the gods. However, after a massive disaster, those who had black magic and white magic died successively, and all traces of magic was wiped out from this mainland. All that people knew was just rumors regarding magic. Recently, people would always relate disasters to the black witches who once mastered black magic, while the ambassadors of the white magic never appeared ever again. Yet at this very instant, the Bishop of York's heart palpitated fiercely. As a member of the Vatican, he had read various documents in the Vatican that recorded information on white magic. The most obvious description of white magic was none other than its color. Clean, pure white, and flawless like that of moonlight. The Bishop of York suddenly felt great pressure, and his soul even shuddered from this feeling. Wasn't the white light surrounding the girl coming from none other than the one and only white magic? Bishop of York, quickly execute your holy powers and eliminate this black witch. The crowd in the surroundings was unaware of the Bishop of York's shock, as they were anxiously seeking protection. Towering above everyone, Yi Qingtang frowned slightly as she looked at the incredulously foolish people with faint impatience. She did not intend to carelessly kill anyone in this constellation world, but it would be a different story if they came down on her. At this moment, the Vatican knights in the surroundings saw Yi Qingtang, who suddenly dashed out of the fire ring, and they viewed her as a powerful enemy. Then, they immediately gripped onto their spears and threw it toward the girl in the sky. Numerous spears turned into bolts of light and flew across the sky. Yi Qingtang looked at the incoming spears emotionlessly. Lifting her sleeve slightly, she released a little spirit energy and crushed those sturdy spears into dust in a flash. Screams erupted among the crowd as they witnessed such a sight. However, the light in the Bishop of York's eyes intensified. This has to be it. I'm sure of it. Apart from the legendary source of magic, what else could achieve such tremendous power? The Vatican knights forcefully suppressed their fear when they noticed that the black witch's magic became increasingly stronger. They took the bow and arrow on their backs, drew the bowstring, and prepared to attack the black witch in the sky. To protect their land, they shall not fear black magic. Yi Qingtang's brows slightly. She vaguely sensed that these people mistook her for some scary thing, but she did not do anything that was out of line, and did not have any intention to harm them despite their harassment. Why did they still not understand? You cannot hurt them. The god of nature, who had remained mum for a long time, suddenly spoke, when Yi Qingtang gradually lost her patience. Why? Yi Qingtang asked calmly. Because this is related to the mission that I'm giving you. The god of nature smiled. Trickster. Chapter 1588 White Magician 2. Just as Yi Qingtang was considering if she should just fly away, the revered Bishop of York suddenly squeezed out of the crowd with a look of excitement. He rushed to those Vatican knights who were about to attack Yi Qingtang, and frantically put down their bows by force. Stop! No one is allowed to attack without my orders. The Bishop of York berated loudly. The Vatican knights stopped immediately, as they looked at him in confusion. On the other hand, the surrounding people had a look of understanding. The Bishop of York is going to attack her personally. Bishop of York, quickly send this abominable black witch to hell. The Bishop of York's forehead was sweating profusely as he looked at the cold-looking girl in the sky. He took a step back and said sincerely, "Respectable white magician, please forgive us for offending you. We were blinded by stupidity and did not recognize your identity." The clamoring crowd was utterly dumbfounded. White magician? Bishop of York, are you joking? Isn't she a black witch? The Bishop of York frowned and said, "Black hair and black eyes are not characteristics unique to a black witch. Our God was the one who first selected such a hair and eye color. Afterward, the devil despicably stole all of this away, and intentionally searched for servants with the same characteristics to confuse our perception. What the Bishop of York said was true, as these were clearly recorded in the documents in the Vatican. However, everything related to the god was recorded by the Vatican, and every time a girl with black hair and eyes appeared later on, most of their appearances were accompanied by disasters and epidemics. Hence, over time, there were only traces of black witches in the people's memory. Everyone panicked in a flash. It should be known that white magicians existed in the epoch of magic, and was the closest to the darling of God. They learned to master the power of magic from God, and fought against the black magicians to protect this mainland. Yi Qingtang originally intended to leave once and for all, but who would have thought that there would be such an intriguing change of events? Before this, everyone had a different attitude towards her, and Yi Qingtang could sense that they seemed to have mistaken the spirit energy around her as some other force, and thus mistook her identity. Do you want to know what your mission in this world is? The god of nature asked with a laugh. Yi Qingtang faintly had an ominous feeling. The god of nature looked at the devout-looking Bishop of York and told Yi Qingtang, "Help the Supreme League Kingdom unify this mainland, and you personally have to gain everyone's faith." This time, the god of nature did not split the missions, and instead gave Yi Qingtang the only mission all at once, to gain everyone's faith. After hearing this extremely familiar mission, Yi Qingtang felt that the missions that the god of nature assigned her to complete in the various constellation worlds were related in a certain way. Nonetheless, since the mission was already given, Yi Qingtang knew what she had to do next. Looking at the Bishop of York who mistook her for a white magician, Yi Qingtang slowly descended from the sky. Her leisurely and casual movement caused a stir in the surroundings, as everyone looked in astonishment at the girl, who was floating in the air and surrounded by light. Chapter 1589 White Magician 3 The Bishop of York looked at Yi Qingtang, who descended quite some height. The closer she got, the more he could feel the powerful aura exuded by the light surrounding her. The source of magic had already disappeared from this mainland for a long time. Their ancestors once said that the source of magic might not have completely disappeared from this mainland, and that perhaps it was hidden in a deeper area. The Bishop of York had always thought that the ancestors said that for self-comfort, but he truly believed this saying when he saw the light around Yi Qingtang. The source of magic must not have disappeared. Otherwise, why did this white magician still have magical powers? Respectable white magician, we were rude and impetuous. Please forgive us, the Bishop of York said sincerely. Offending a white magician was a disaster for every kingdom, but winning the favor of a white magician was the supreme glory of any kingdom. Since this white magician appeared in their Supreme League kingdom, did it mean that she might have once been a member of this kingdom? The Supreme League kingdom was currently in hot water, and if they could obtain the help of the white magician, they would definitely be able to overcome this suffering and welcome the light of victory. It's all right, Yi Qingtang said indifferently. It's all right. The Bishop of York did not understand what Yi Qingtang meant, but seeing that she did not have any unusual expression, he faintly guessed that she probably did not blame them. The Bishop of York heaved a great sigh of relief immediately. The white magician is indeed a white magician. Based on the way she speaks, she is probably utilizing colloquialisms of the epoch of magic. The Bishop of York shuddered at that thought. Could it be that the white magician before me is a lucky survivor of the massive disaster during the epoch of magic? Wouldn't she be thousands of years old then? The Bishop of York was even more astounded. Seeing that Yi Qingtang's clothes were completely different from theirs, he believed even more strongly that his guess was right. Everyone else could not help but be astonished when they saw the Bishop of York's humble behavior. White magician. She's actually a white magician. The white magician actually ate the food that I made. I'm so lucky. A young woman in the bar was about to faint from bliss, an attitude completely unlike her earlier disgust and fear of the Black Witch. What about that? The white magician even touched me with her hands. The muscular man who was knocked down by Yi Qingtang had a completely different attitude as well. He touched his swelling head with a pleased and satisfied expression, drawing the envy of his friends. Seeing that Yi Qingtang acknowledged her identity as a white magician, the Bishop of York immediately said, "We were unaware of your arrival. Please head to the Vatican for me to express my apologies." The Bishop of York was aware of the kingdom's current difficulty and was obviously unwilling to let the powerful white magician leave. Yi Qingtang nodded and signaled the Bishop of York to lead the way. He raised his finger and pointed in the direction of the Vatican. He originally intended to invite Yi Qingtang into the carriage to head there together. But who would have thought that Yi Qingtang would simply fly there after knowing its location? Her glowing figure turned into a bolt of light under the moonlight, and she flew across the city like a shooting star. This instantly attracted the exclamation of many, and some even kneeled on the ground and made a wish silently. The Bishop of York dared not to hesitate and quickly returned with his men. Chapter 1590 White Magician. For the Vatican Palace was situated in the corner of a town. Yi Qingtang learned from the Bishop of York that the town that she was in now was a small town of the Supreme League Kingdom, and most of the fit young men were sent to the front line by the Supreme League Kingdom. Previously, those muscular men she met in the bar were also going to head to the front line a few days later. Gradually, Yi Qingtang learned more clues about this world from their conversation. From the source of magic to the epoch of magic, the disaster and the war between the black witches and white magicians, as well as the war that was happening on this mainland right now. This war involved every country on this mainland regardless of their size, and no one was fortunate enough to escape it. As the kingdom that first incited the war, the Supreme League Kingdom arose the dissatisfaction of other countries, and thus the war expanded to an unimaginable scale. Yi Qingtang listened to the Bishop of York silently. Although he did not say it clearly, he secretly sounded her out if she was from the Supreme League Kingdom. After Yi Qingtang gave him a definite answer, he evidently heaved a sigh of relief and continuously lamented about the dangerous situation that the Supreme League Kingdom was currently facing. Yi Qingtang knew what the Bishop of York meant from his tearful complaints. His goal coincided with hers. It is truly regretful for the Supreme League Kingdom to face such a situation. Yi Qingtang sighed. The emperor initially only wanted to get rid of those avaricious people from the Luo Kingdom, and did not expect things to develop to this state. Everyone on this mainland was deceived by the people of the Luo Kingdom. We will be destroyed sooner or later. The people of the Luo Kingdom are the remaining evildoers left behind by the devil on this mainland. They're the best at using flowery speech to bewitch people. The Supreme League Kingdom's initial war was over a small country named the Luo Kingdom, which was stuck between various large and powerful kingdoms. The size of Luo Kingdom's territory was pitifully small, and was less than the size of a province in the Supreme League Kingdom. Lord White Magician, please help the Emperor. He has become a supposed devil to all the other kingdoms, but only we know the reason behind his actions. Without the Emperor, the citizens of the Supreme League Kingdom would probably die from starvation. The Bishop of York said anxiously. I am willing to do so, if it can save the citizens of the Supreme League Kingdom from disaster. Yi Qingtang concurred with the Bishop of York. The Bishop of York's eyes shone, and he expressed his gratitude to Yi Qingtang. He immediately ordered people to arrange a room for Yi Qingtang, before hurrying off to contact his superior, so as to personally bring this precious white magician to the Emperor and gain glory for himself. The Bishop of York did want to help the kingdom, but this did not obstruct him from gaining benefits either. If he could personally send a powerful white magician to the Supreme League Kingdom's emperor, he would definitely rise in ranks in the Vatican, and he no longer needed to be stuck in this remote little town. As Yi Qingtang looked at the busy Bishop of York, her knowledge regarding this two-star constellation world deepened again. It had to be said that this world was greatly different from her original world. However, it was great that she already knew what the mission was, and how to proceed with it. Yi Qingtang returned to the room that the Bishop of York prepared for her, calmed her heart down, and meditated on the ground cross-legged, as she waited for good news from the Bishop of York. Chapter 1591, Allied Forces. 1. Night fell, and the people in the town were fast asleep. Dark clouds covered the moon silently, as though it was a premonition of the arrival of death. In the room, Yi Qingtang, who was cultivating through meditation, suddenly opened her eyes as she heard some noise. She immediately stood up to check what happened, but the moment she opened her room, the white-robed believers were scampering all over the place with terrified expressions while making cries that sounded like knells. Yi Qingtang originally wanted to ask someone about the situation, but based on their current state, she probably would not get any answer. Thus, Yi Qingtang simply left the Vatican and headed to the area of chaos. The back of the town was guarded by a garrison, but this place was covered in smoke right now. Numerous figures were locked in a deadly battle in the darkness, and swords glistened from the reflection of the moonlight. Tall figures collapsed in the pool of blood one after another, and the mixture of the heavy blood and smoke choked everyone. General Mark, the Allied forces troops are too great in numbers. They launched a sneak attack in the night, and we have suffered a great loss. One soldier dripping with blood spoke as he looked at the highest-ranked commander, General Mark, in the town. Mark frowned deeply as he looked at the intense battle not far away. This town was in a remote location, and was extremely far away from the main battlefield. However, no one expected the Allied forces to suddenly attack this place. The abrupt attack left the guards completely unprepared. The enemy's numbers were far above theirs, and Mark's guards suffered a great loss in just the first wave of battle. "General, should we retreat first?" The soldier had not finished his sentence when he was immediately kicked to the floor by Mark. "I will behead whoever dares to retreat. Listen to me carefully. No matter what, we must endure the Allied forces' attacks. Even if I'm left with my final breath, I will never let them invade into the land of the Supreme League Kingdom." Mark unsheathed the heavy sword on his waist with a sharp clank. "My troop only has soldiers who died in a battle and absolutely no deserters. Do you all hear me?" "Yes, General." The soldiers were shocked by their general, who pledged his life to guard the defensive line, and all of them prepared to fight with their lives on the line. "Don't stand around. Polish your spears and follow me to the battlefield." General Mark waved his hand and secured his helmet before getting onto a horse in preparation to fight with his life. The soldiers guarding this place numbered fewer than 1/5 of the Allied forces' troops, and even if they fought hard to the end, it would be difficult to achieve victory. Mark was very clear that the Allied forces were fully prepared this time, and the number of mobilized troops was far more than what met the eye. He had faintly seen a black lion flag flying at the back of the battlefield, and the elite forces represented by the flag truly sent a shiver down Mark's spine. Nevertheless, Mark had not extra time to consider these factors. His homeland was right behind him, and a disastrous nightmare would fall upon them should they retreat. "Kill!" Mark yelled furiously. The shouts of the army filled the air as they charged into the battlefield with him. As Mark and the army charged into the battlefield, a slender figure slowly walked out of the town. Chapter 1592, Allied Forces. Yi Qingtang's brows furrowed slightly as she watched the murderous and bloody scene before her. This town and the nearby surroundings were still peaceful before night fell. Who could have expected that this place would turn into a hell-like battlefield in just a few hours? Yi Qingtang walked toward that fierce battlefield slowly. The ferocious soldiers' eyes were bloodshot as they waved their weapons continuously and chopped the heads of their enemies. Dismembered limbs and corpses were strewn all over the ground as sounds of slaughtering filled the air. "Ah!" A sharp cry pierced the night sky. A guard who was soaked in blood had numerous wounds on his body, and his silver armor was completely stained red. A soldier from the Allied forces chased after him fiercely, as though he was hunting his prey. That guard looked at most 16 years old, and was still a teenager. He instinctively wanted to avoid the arrival of death, but the fear on his face froze when he saw Yi Qingtang walking toward them from the town. He could not retreat. If he did, his family and friends would be massacred. Valor rushed into his chest. His retreating footsteps stopped and changed direction. With a beastly roar and bloodshot eyes, he charged toward the incoming Allied force soldier and raised his sword to protect his homeland. Run! This is a battlefield. Quickly! The teen guard shouted with all his might, but the Allied force soldier slashed his shoulder in the next second, and blood spewed all over the place. The remainder of his sentence was replaced by a cry as the teen guard collapsed before Yi Qingtang and stained her pure white dress with his blood. The bloodthirsty Allied forces soldier suddenly saw a girl in strange clothes on the battlefield and noticed that the guard seemed to be protecting her earlier on. Almost instantly, the Allied forces soldier unsheathed his bloody sword, ignored the dying teen guard, and slashed at Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang was slightly surprised, but she remained expressionless as she watched the incoming sword. Suddenly, she lifted her hand, and the heavy sword was trapped between her fingers easily. The Allied forces soldier was filled with astonishment. His sword seemed to be soldered into iron, and would not budge an inch. Can I kill this? Yi Qingtang turned to look at the god of nature. The god of nature stopped her when she wanted to attack the people of the Supreme League Kingdom earlier on. The god of nature floating behind Yi Qingtang nodded and said, "Of course. They're the Allied forces, the enemy of the Supreme League Kingdom." The god of nature was very knowledgeable about this world. Allied forces? Yi Qingtang mumbled. In all honesty, everyone on this chaotic battlefield was heavily armored, and she could not tell who was who. However, the teen in the armor from earlier on seemed to want her to leave this place. In that case, he should be a soldier of the Supreme League Kingdom. Yi Qingtang immediately distinguished the two types of armors, representing the different camps. With permission from the god of nature, Yi Qingtang simply broke the sword without hesitation and thrust it into the enemy soldier's neck while he was still stunned. Blood spouted into the sky in a flash. Chapter 1593 Allied Forces 3. The wounded teen guard originally thought that the innocent girl would also be slain by the sword, but unexpectedly, he witnessed that girl killing the strong Allied force soldier casually. Yi Qingtang remained emotionless as she watched the Allied force soldier collapse before her. Bending down slightly, she helped up the teen guard who wanted to protect her, and discreetly fed him a pill before gently sending him to a safe spot at the border of the battlefield. "You!" A look of surprise was reflected in the youth's eyes as he stared blankly at Yi Qingtang's stunning face under the moonlight. However, in the next second, Yi Qingtang leaped up and flew toward the most intense area of conflict on the battlefield. The mission that the god of nature assigned her was to help the Supreme League Kingdom unify the mainland. Thus, its enemies could be killed. In the chaotic battlefield, a white figure suddenly appeared. The troops from the opposing camps were locked in a fierce battle, but they suddenly saw a petite girl appearing before their eyes. Before the guards could react, that girl turned into the incarnation of a death god and killed 5 Allied force soldiers instantly like a bolt of lightning. Blood splattered everywhere. Before the guards could take a clear look at her face, she disappeared before their eyes once again. However, wherever she appeared, the soldiers of the Allied forces died tragically without any chance to struggle or resist, just like a powerless lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Given the martial skills of this world, Yi Qingtang could easily kill thousands of people in a second with her current martial realm. However, the soldiers of the Supreme League Kingdom were entangled in this fight, and Yi Qingtang was worried that she may accidentally kill a few Supreme League Kingdom soldiers. Helpless, she could only control her powers to prevent the Supreme League Kingdom soldiers from being harmed. Yet even so, her appearance completely turned the tables around. On the battlefield, General Mark was on a horse as he slashed his sword around and killed numerous enemies. However, at this very instant, his body was covered with many injuries, and his breathing gradually turned irregular. The guards fighting alongside Mark were extremely worn out as well, and their expressions darkened as they noticed the continual decline in guards. "General Mark, we can't fight on like this anymore. Otherwise, all of our brothers will die here." "General, to hell with being afraid of them. Even if our entire troop is wiped out, we must not retreat. Kill." Mark roared in a deep tone. Just as everyone was completely disheartened, they suddenly realized that the Allied forces around them seemed to be decreasing continuously. "What's happening?" Could it be that the troops in the nearby town found out about the war and rushed over to provide reinforcements? Impossible. The nearest town to us is about 2 to 3 days' journey away from us. It's impossible for them to find General Mark. Look. A guard seized an opportunity and shouted loudly, while pointing in the air above the battlefield with his sword. Mark looked in the direction, only to see a slender figure shuttling through the battlefield like a bolt of lightning. Blood splattered every area she passed by, and countless Allied forces soldiers were killed by that white streak of lightning. Chapter 1594. Brutal little fellow one. Who is that? General Mark widened his eyes in shock. That girl isn't wielding any weapon, yet she can slaughter strong soldiers so easily? Her simple and light movements made it seem as effortless as plucking a flower. Let's not care who she is first. Brothers, let's kill. Let's kill this group of bastards when they're in chaos. As though he was inspired by the girl's aggressive murderous intent, General Mark shouted loudly and led his remaining guards to counterattack fiercely. The Allied forces, which originally held an absolute advantage, seemed to be in hell right now. They launched the first wave of attack with 5 times the amount of soldiers, and originally thought they could easily eliminate the guards in this city. Yet just as they were going to drive the guards to death, a devil-like girl suddenly appeared on their battlefield, and her fair hand was like the scythe of the god of death, reaping all their souls. There was a huge outburst of chaos among the Allied forces, as their troops were forced to retreat by that girl. However, when they finally pulled some distance away from the guards, that was the true arrival of a nightmare. Mark was about to continue pursuing them, but he suddenly saw the girl leaping up and floating in the air with a huge black flame blazing behind her. In the next second, her slim fingers gently pointed at the Allied forces, and endless black flames instantly turned into a massive dragon and lunged forward. With a deafening roar, thousands of Allied forces soldiers were engulfed by the black flame. The two forces had finally separated. Otherwise, she did not dare to use any powers. Yi Qingtang sighed softly. General Mark and the rest who witnessed this scene were completely dumbfounded, as they watched the girl in the sky with their jaws hanging wide open. Go! Hurry! Bring someone to check this lattice identity. There was a bright fire in General Mark's eyes. That girl seemed to be only attacking the Allied forces. And if she was part of the Supreme League Kingdom, they probably would be able to survive this war. The Allied forces had no choice but to retreat due to the black flame, and the guards cheered loudly at the sight. General Mark immediately brought his injured soldiers to seek medical treatment, while a group of guards were sent to contact the mysterious and formidable girl. When Yi Qingtang came to the town, she only appeared near the bar, and only those 100 people there had seen her. These guards thus naturally did not recognize her. Friend, our general wishes to meet you, a guard said. Yi Qingtang nodded lightly, and immediately followed the group of guards to General Mark's base camp. In the headquarters, General Mark had already taken off his armor, and was being bandaged for his wounds. Upon receiving the soldier's report of Yi Qingtang's arrival, Mark immediately told the medic to leave, and stood up as a petite girl walked into his sight. Previously, General Mark did not see the girl's looks clearly, but seeing her now, he realized that she was even smaller than expected, and seemed to be about the height of a 14-year-old child. The more this was the case, the more surprised General Mike was over Yi Qingtang's ferocity on the battlefield. Chapter 1595. Brutal little fellow 2. Your performance on the battlefield was extremely stunning. May I know if you're a citizen of the Supreme League Kingdom? General Mark asked straight to the point. He did not have any more time. While the Allied forces retreated temporarily, this was only their first wave of attack, and General Mark was very clear that this night was destined to be a sleepless one. The Allied forces definitely would not give up on the invasion so easily, and the bugle call for the second wave would sound very soon. General Mark needed to confirm the background of this mysterious girl as soon as possible. Yi Qingtang looked at General Mark's anxious expression and replied, "Yes." Almost instantly, General Mark heaved a clear sigh of relief, and the smile on his face deepened. Friend, tonight's war was all thanks to your help. I knew that the citizens of the Supreme League Kingdom were not craven and cowardly. The Allied forces have launched a sneak attack on us today, and the number of guards that we have may not be able to stop their plan. My dear friend, are you willing to play a part in protecting our town by helping us resist the Allied forces' invasion? General Mark looked at Yi Qingtang solemnly. After witnessing this girl's ability for himself, he was increasingly certain that he required her help. If you're willing to help us to overcome this crisis, I believe the people in the town would be extremely grateful for your bravery. He added on. Sure. Yi Qingtang agreed to General Mark's request without any hesitation. Smiles almost flooded out from General Mark's eyes. May I know what your name is? Yi Qingtang replied. You can call me Tang. Tang? What a nice name. General Mark smiled. Almost right after their conversation ended, a piercing bugle call rang from outside, and a guard rushed in hurriedly. General Mark, this is bad. The Allied forces are launching an attack again, and the Glorious Lion Knights are leading the battle this time. Glorious Lion Knights. General Mark frowned instantly at the sound of this name. What he was most worried about still happened eventually. Is there anything special about the Glorious Lion Knights? Yi Qingtang sensed General Mark's abnormality and asked curiously. Seeing that Yi Qingtang was so young, General Mark struggled for a moment and did not dare to lie to her. Tang, the Glorious Lion Knights is one of the 5 great elite forces of the Allied forces, and is the trump army of the Qin Dragon Kingdom. They once wiped out a troop of 10,000 soldiers with just 1,000 of them, and each one of them is extremely powerful and brave. General Mark's expression turned ugly. When I saw the Glorious Lion Knights flag just now, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. Logically speaking, a force like the Glorious Lion Knights should be at the other battlefields, but unexpectedly, they actually came here. I'm afraid the Allied forces are determined to conquer this place. At this moment, General Mark's good mood from inviting Yi Qingtang to participate in the battle vanished completely. He was very worried that this petite girl would withdraw after hearing what he said, but he realized that her clean face seemed to remain emotionless. It was as though she completely did not realize the power of the Glorious Lion Knights. Chapter 1596 Brutal Little Fellow. 3. The bugle call from outside became increasingly louder. General Mark did not dare to hesitate any longer, and immediately put on his armor, before leading the soldiers to the battlefield with Yi Qingtang following behind them. On the battlefield, the troops of the Allied forces were densely packed, and with one glance, one could tell that there were multiple times more troops than before. General Mark's heart turned cold with just a look, and his expression darkened even further when he saw the 5,000 soldiers in golden armor in the center of the Allied forces' troops. Golden armor. That's the Glorious Lion Knights' battle armor. The Glorious Lion Knights actually deployed 5,000 people. It must be known that 5,000 Glorious Lion Knights could rival 50,000 regular soldiers. And apart from these 5,000 soldiers, the Allied forces still had over 100,000 soldiers from other troops. The guards at General Mark's side amounted to only 20,000 people, and he lost half of them from the first battle. Yet there were 10 times more enemies standing right before their eyes now. The death bell seemed to be looming over the guards' heads, and was ready to ring for their deaths anytime. Archers, prepare. General Mark suppressed his fear and shouted loudly. With his command, thousands of archers pulled their bows, and arrows flew toward the Allied forces' camp as General Mark raised his hand. No matter what, they must give it their all. Why are they not defending? A guard who just shot an arrow was rather surprised when he saw that the Allied forces did not take any defensive actions, despite thousands of arrows being shot at them. It was as though they completely did not see the arrows. General Mark frowned slightly, as well as he was not clear about the Allied forces' situation. But just as confusion clouded the guards, 5 black beams suddenly shot out from the Glorious Lion Knights' camp. When the arrows reached the front of the Allied forces, the 5 beams formed a gigantic black screen under the moonlight. All the arrows turned into dust instantly upon contact with the black screen. That is black magic. There are actually black witches hidden among the glorious Lion Knights. General Mark's eyes sharpened. Only then did he realize that there were 5 people donned in black robes among the glorious Lion Knights. Those people had very small frames, and were concealed in the troops. If one did not look carefully, they simply could not spot those people in the night. The words black magic loomed above everyone's head like a nightmare. No one expected that the Allied forces actually accepted the servants of the devil. If the guards were almost on the brink of a breakdown by the enemy's numbers, the appearance of the 5 black witches was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Everyone seemed to have seen their own corpses on the ground. It's over. They're completely hopeless. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers, glorious Lion Knights, black witches. How terrifying their opponents were in this battle. Even General Mark's complexion turned white. Don't be afraid. We are soldiers of the Supreme League Kingdom. We will protect our homeland with our lives. General Mark shouted in a low tone in hopes of dispersing the fear among the army. However, the seeds of uneasiness had already spread silently. Those are black witches. They possess black magic. How can we possibly be their opponent? Chapter 1597 Brutal little fellow. For the guards were in a state of panic. It was at this moment that they realized that the first wave earlier on was just an appetizer from the Allied forces, and that this was the true battle. General Mark's expression turned uglier by the minute, and he immediately commanded the archers. Continue to shoot. Aim straight at the 5 black witches. The archers pulled their bows with trembling fingers. All the arrows that were released were destroyed by the black magic of the black witches. The ray of hope diminished bit by bit. Laughter rang among the Allied forces, and traveling through the air into General Mark's ears. Their laughter was laced with sarcasm and ridicule. General Mark clenched his sword tightly as he looked at the soldiers who lost all morale. Suddenly, he flipped up onto his horse and was prepared to lead by example and charge toward the Allied forces' camp. They could be defeated but could not be afraid. Just as General Mark's horse galloped for a few meters, a slender figure slowly passed by above him like a feather, and the galloping horse seemed to be placated by a certain force as it suddenly came to a stop. General Mark, do you want those 5 black witches? Yi Qingtang gradually landed before General Mark, as she gazed at the 5 black witches concealed among the glorious Lion Knights' troops from afar. She vividly remembered that in the evening, she was still mistaken to be a black witch by the people here. So she thought that a black witch was a very powerful figure. However, looking at that black screen, Yi Qingtang felt speechless for some reason. Tang? Hurry, step back. The black witch's magic is very terrifying. You're still young. General Mark was a little regretful now. Had he known that there was such a frightening number of Allied forces, and that there were also the glorious Lion Knights and black witches, he definitely would not pull this innocent girl into this battle. While this girl was powerful, she was only one person. She was not the opponent of thousands of soldiers. Yi Qingtang ignored General Mark's shouts and slowly walked toward the Allied forces' camp. The howling gale lifted the edges of her robe, making her look extremely surreal. General Mark, please remain here. Yi Qingtang's voice traveled into General Mark's ears along with the wind, and he was slightly taken aback. Tang, what are you doing? Come back quickly. General Mark roared loudly. Those fearful guards could not help but widen their eyes in disbelief as they watched the petite girl walking toward the battlefield by herself fearlessly. What were they fearful of? Even such a young girl stood up so bravely, yet they were hiding behind like losers. They could not be like this. Fear gushed out of the guards almost instinctively. They did not wish to see a girl being forced to fight the war alone because of their cowardice. Yi Qingtang was originally quite happy that both sides were a large distance apart. Thus, she did not worry about accidentally hurting them. However, she realized that the guards began to charge over, and she had no choice but to move faster. Isn't it good to just stay there? Yi Qingtang was truly afraid that they would be locked in a battle, which would make it difficult for her to attack. Thus, She simply decided to increase her pace and eliminate the allied forces before her at once. However, the moment Yi Qingtang was about to attack, the allied forces that initially encircled the guards from not far away actually retreated on a large scale for some reason. The sudden retreat was truly unexpected. What is going on? Yi Qingtang halted slightly and observed the allied forces' movement. Chapter 1598 Kingdom Fortress. No one expected the allied forces to retreat. However, within a short time, the allied forces had retreated by several meters and even sped up. Shortly thereafter, the large troop swiftly vanished from the sight of Yi Qingtang and the others. Yi Qingtang was speechless. The large group of guardsmen who had charged forward could not help but cheer when they saw the allied forces retreat. General Mark heaved a huge sigh of relief. He swung himself off the horse and hurriedly walked towards Yi Qingtang. "Tang, you were too impulsive just now." Although he spoke sternly, his tone was filled with concern and anxiety. General Mark took a deep breath, and his expression grew warmer. "Tang, you are really the bravest girl I have ever met." General Mark had taken in the guardsmen's reaction to the situation at a glance. The enemy's strength had frightened them into retreating. Otherwise, General Mark would not have charged into the battlefield by himself. But General Mark had not expected that Yi Qingtang, the petite young girl who had just joined them, would also dare to face the enemy head-on. If Yi Qingtang had not joined the battle, the guardsmen would have huddled up and refused to advance. At that thought, General Mark looked at Yi Qingtang's glittering eyes. He took a deep breath and seemed to come to some sort of decision. "Tang, your skills and courage are commendable. I do not know why the allied forces suddenly retreated. I am unable to leave this place, but I will ask someone to bring my letter of recommendation with you to Kingdom Fortress. I will recommend you to His Majesty the King." Yi Qingtang was startled. She did not expect General Mark to recommend her to the Supreme League Kingdom's king straight away. However, this would allow her to complete her mission more quickly anyway. At that thought, Yi Qingtang said, "Thank you, General Mark." "Haha, no need to thank me. You are an outstanding young lady. Right now the kingdom needs people like you," General Mark said with a loud laugh. He rallied his troops and sent someone to keep a close eye on the allied troops' movements. Then, he arranged for a vice-general to accompany Yi Qingtang to Kingdom Fortress while carrying the letter that he had personally written. Yi Qingtang had intended to have a word with the Bishop of York. After all, the Bishop of York also seemed to want to recommend her. However, she learned from the other believers that the Bishop of York had gone to another city and would not be back for a few days. Yi Qingtang left a message with the believers and headed for the Kingdom Fortress with General Mark's vice-general. A few days later, Bishop of York, who was happily prepared to hitch himself to Yi Qingtang's rising star, returned only to discover that she had left. Yi Qingtang and the vice-general hurried on their horses towards Kingdom Fortress. After the Supreme League Kingdom declared war, Kingdom Fortress became the biggest fortress at the front line. It was personally defended by the Supreme League Kingdom's current king and contained the best troops in the kingdom. This was the safest but most dangerous place. When the vice-general arrived at Kingdom Fortress, he immediately hurried Yi Qingtang to the palace to meet His Majesty, the King. Yi Qingtang's black hair and dark eyes attracted a lot of attention along the way. However, their reaction was not as exaggerated as that of people in the first city. This was so especially in Kingdom Fortress, where the soldiers merely took a look at Yi Qingtang before going about their own preparations. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.